coming. I would like to open the regular meeting of August 7th. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Allen is absent with notice.
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
Garneau,
Yes.
De Palma,
Here.
Cordella,
Here.
Marshall,
Here.
Thurman.
Here. At this time, we need to approve our agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Are we not making any changes to it?
Well, I was wondering,
I'd like to make a change to the agenda if I could. Item G, new business. Because of correspondence with our township attorney on Friday, late Friday, which is, it's detailed, but it's not clear as to our authority as a board when it comes to removing a subcommittee member, that we move that item to our next scheduled meeting, which is the 24th.
well, I think when he can be here would probably be a more appropriate. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's, I guess, what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Because we do have a special meeting. He might be able to make it to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at the earliest possible time that the attorney can be here, because, you know, he needs to be here for,
As I recall, the correspondence from the attorney said that if the body that impaneled the subcommittee does have the authority to remove a person from the subcommittee, obviously the board here has the authority as the impaneling
Right.
body to
Yeah.
remove a person. So I'm not sure whether there's any equivocation about it. It seems obvious we do have that authority to remove the person from the subcommittee.
We do. I think Chris is requesting that we wait till the attorney can be present, and I know Clerk Allen wanted to wait until the attorney was present, and I don't know.
I feel, though, that there's not much time for the subcommittee, so if we know that we have somebody who would be interested if we did vote yes, because I'd hate to remove and then not have somebody interested in being in the subcommittee, I'm fine with keeping it there. During our discussion of removal or not, we can find out if anybody's interested in doing it. I do feel that, right here it says, the board does not have authority to remove a member unless the
Well,
board is the appointing entity.
If we do take up the item, we can get into that,
Right, that's what I'm saying, so I'm fine with leaving it.
and I don't know.
We can leave it.
I'm gonna surprise you. I think we should have the attorney here to do this.
So that's 3-3 split.
All right, why don't we leave it on the agenda, and then, well, if we leave it on the agenda.
To remove
then-
something from the agenda, don't we have to have what vote? Does it have to be?
Yeah, we're split on this.
Right, so
I
then
think
doesn't
you
it
have
just,
to-
you have to have a
It
majority,
has to
right?
stay then, doesn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
it does have to stay, yeah.
Yep, all right, we'll leave it on the agenda, and then we can discuss when we get there.
okay.
Okay. Was there any other, someone else was gonna say something about the agenda down here, I believe? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Oh, unless, were you talking about the cash receipting thing?
Mm,
No, okay,
I mean, unless,
okay.
For the approval of the agenda.
Okay.
unless that's something you wanted removed, I don't.
No, I
I'm
think it's gonna
just-
go quick, so.
We're all good? Okay, Dana, did you wanna move to approve the agenda as presented?
Yes, that's what I did.
Support.
Okay. I have a motion by trustee DePalma, seconded by trustee Marshall, to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Okay.
So the agenda is approved 5-1. At this time, we will get into our reports. Tonight, we have our usual treasury report, our general ledger report, our designated report, our reconciliation report, and our sheriff's report. And we have Lieutenant Glover here, if he'd like to step up and maybe touch on the highlights of the sheriff's report tonight,
Sure.
please.
I did a quarterly report, the same as I did last year, and touched on just some of the basics. Our calls for service for this year, from the first of the year through January, or July 1st, we've had a slight increase in calls by 55 dispatch calls. And our calls for service are calls where we're actually, a car is being dispatched to some type of a call, no matter what that is. The department does the statistics a little bit different. We do Ortonville separate from the township for our dispatch calls. We were actually 34 calls down for the township, but we had an increase of 89 calls for the village. And where the majority of that increase is from walk-ins at the substation, where people come in to the substation. That's where the basic main increase is.
So
Where
they
they're
could
coming
be-
in.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so they could be from anywhere within the township if it's a walk-in to the
Yes, and
substation?
yes,
Okay.
and it would be registered as a village statistic.
Okay.
So because of coming,
we all had that
just because of the
question.
location. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was just.
because 89 is quite a few.
Right.
quite a
Thank
bit of
you,
an
and I'm
increase.
sorry for interrupting you.
It's all right. So we've had the slight increase there. Traffic enforcement, which continues to be a major issue for the substation. In 2016, during the same time period, we wrote 693 traffic citations, and that included 88 warning citations. For the same time period this year, we've written 749 traffic citations and given 128 warnings. Difference of 56 traffic citations for the same time period this year. And I've given you a list of, those violations by category, moving, non-moving. Traffic crashes, which of course are always a concern. Last year we had a total of 170 accidents for the township. This year so far we've had 112 on our main roads, and only 9 being on private property, with 0 fatalities so far. Knock on wood. So that's a definite increase for us on a positive note. Crimes of increase and concern, I listed. For some reason, our assaultive crimes seem to be on the increase. Our assault and batteries, which includes domestic violence. Our felonious assaults are up, which are assaults involving weapons. Our criminal sexual conduct crimes are also on the increase. And of course, our identity theft, which includes any of these scams that we've put in the paper, looking for, just one of them that we've had today was, the IRS contacting people, which seems to be a big one. Violation of controlled substance still seems to be a major issue for us. A lot of our traffic stops result in drug paraphernalia, drug arrest, as well as the overdoses that still seem to be on the increase in the township, involving heroin and those type of drugs. Like I said, we've had a slight increase in calls, 55 calls. We're averaging about 128 calls a week, about 18 calls a day. Some days we will have 12 calls, and other days, and then other days we might have 30 calls. Of course, our afternoon shift is our busiest shift. With the addition of my current sergeant, our new sergeant, Sean Werner, he's been working an 11 to 7 shift since he started, occasionally a 12 to 8. He's given us a nice overlap onto the afternoon shift, which basically allows us another car. So just about every day we have 3 cars on the road as opposed to 2. On Wednesdays, we'll have 4, and sometimes 5 if I'm here into that afternoon shift. which has been nice for backups, because with the crimes of increase, the nature of the calls are almost always requiring two cars for us. The assault and batteries, the felonious assaults, where we don't send one car, our dispatches automatically send in both cars. We continue to show increases in the traffic enforcement by our troops, which is obviously resulting in more tickets, more warrant arrests being made out of those traffic stops, more drug arrests. We believe that with the higher presence of traffic stops, and I think most people can vouch that they definitely see our cars, stopping cars, especially on the main roads, is one of the differences in our traffic crashes this year. They're down, which is a good thing. However, we still continue to have our most major accidents involving distracted driving, people on cell phones, people looking at their GPSs. We're still having a lot of rear-end accidents, and it's not just on M15, it's all over the township. And they have been, the majority of that has been our issue with the distracted driving. One of the numbers that really surprised me was last year, we really tried to make a dent in drunk driving arrest, as well as operate under the influence of narcotics. This year, in the same time period as last year, we have a 50% decrease in drunk driving arrest, which I'm hoping attributes to the fact that we were not lenient with drunk drivers last year. We had a high number of drunk driving arrests, as well as operating under the influence of narcotics, which we are treating the same as a drunk driving, so that the crime and the punishment's the same. And, I included in the report, the top 20 offenses for Brandon Township. I also included the top offenses for the village of Ortonville. And those are kind of self-explanatory. They show the different types of calls.
Nice report, Lieutenant Glover. Thank you very much. Did anyone have any questions for Lieutenant
I just
Glover?
want to congratulate you and the guys, because I see you have a fairly high clearance by arrest on all your cases, the ones that you're going to be able to clear by arrest. And you have a really fairly high success rate there.
Yeah,
So pass along to the guys.
I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Last year, we actually had out of our 14 substations, we actually had the highest clearance rate on arrestable cases. And this year, we're pretty much on par with definitely the top two.
Good job.
So, okay.
And I just wanted to say, I think it was today, someone tagged me in a post on Facebook.
Safest
The
cities.
Click on Detroit did the 10 tops, or the 20 top safest cities
Cities.
in
We were number
Michigan,
10.
and we were number 10. So
Really?
that's
Very cool.
We were.
due to you guys.
I
so
received
thank
that
you.
same email, and that was nice, because I don't believe Brandon's ever been included in that, is ever making that top.
Yeah, so I just wanted to tell you that was announced today. Somehow I got
Yes.
so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And also, the last thing I want to touch on too was our school liaison,
Oh yes.
which continues to be a major part of what we do. Aside from basically knowing what's going on in the township, it's amazing the amount of information that comes from that school liaison. But we had last year, or this year, we have already had 170 actual cases that involved our school liaison with some form of police contact within our schools. And that's primarily through the middle school and the high school. Last year at that same time period, we had 96. So there was a big increase. We have targeted, with an agreement between myself and Dr. Outlaw, have made a strong presence of narcotics arrest within that school. Last year, we made several narcotics arrests that resulted in search warrants and extensive criminal charges. So the school has been very cooperative with us, and as far as that school liaison is working out very well.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it looks like I skipped a couple reports. So we do have a building department report, and we are up by 5 new homes this year as compared to last year. We have 33 so far, and last year at this point we had 28. So that's good. And we also have a recreation report, Edna Burton Senior Center report, a CDBG report, and that brings us to our trustees' reports. Scott, would you like to start us out?
Sure.
think first of all, while I get a chance, I already mentioned it to Susan personally, but you surprised us all last week with your departure that's soon coming. Thank you very much for all the your human interest articles have been fantastic, although we're going to miss that here. And I think to include with that, your last article, as I mentioned, on the Appalachian Trail, and her name was Lynn Wummel that completed that. Good for her. That's no small feat. So Kathy's also asked me to, we had a Parks and Rec subcommittee meeting, and Fred's not here, but congratulations, Fred. We were awarded that DNR grant, and actually to Kathy as well, because I'm sure you were well involved in putting all that
Dana,
paperwork.
a lot of us
Dana,
were.
well, good for all of you. I was not. So, but there's going to be a lot of accounting that's going to be needed moving forward. So part of our discussion was making sure that we're keeping all park monies and disbursements. I think we're going to set up a different account just
Cost center.
a cost center just for that. Let's see. We briefly mentioned the skate park. I think even with sponsorship, they were just having a problem getting enough people to really use it. And I think it's Fred's opinion at this point that it's probably run its course. And although it's not on our agenda, I think we're going to have to discuss what we're going to do with that equipment moving forward. Because officially, we haven't recommended selling it, but I think that's what's going to end up happening.
Right, and that's a decision the board will have to
Right,
make.
that's right. But Fred's still doing a lot of good work out there at the park. You know, if you've seen the maps of what it's supposed to look like when it's all done, it's going to be great out there.
Okay.
That is all.
All right, thank you. Dana?
I just wanted to second Scott on Susan, you're going to be missed, and I do wish you the best of luck, and I've enjoyed working with you, and I've enjoyed reading all your articles. I know that is. And then every time I just kind of mention my subcommittee, which is the Retirement Oversight Committee, it still hasn't met. The state finally, they had a group working on some issues of OPEB and pension funding for retirees, and a report has been issued, but no legislation has been done. So hopefully at some point we'll meet soon to discuss the report and move forward, and also see what the state does for legislation. So we haven't met lately. I know I keep saying that, but we were waiting on the state, and so here we are.
Okay. We're going to meet in the next probably 3 weeks or so.
Okay.
All right, Bob?
Are you going to cry?
I'll just say ditto. You'll be missed and your articles will be missed. But good luck to you in the future.
Yes.
Also on July 27th, there is a meeting of the Road Improvement Subcommittee. Included in this meeting were Danielle Deneau and Chuck Keller from the Oakland County Road Commission, and also Lieutenant Glover. And the primary purpose of the meeting was the speeds on the back roads. And the Road Commission offered up their idea for posting or not posting roads at 45 miles per hour. Lieutenant Glover, I think, captured, some of our concerns about not posting on the back roads. So we're really sort of up in the air. We've picked 6 locations to actually do a traffic study. Is this available so I don't have to go through them all?
That's in our packet.
Oh,
It's
but I mean
in
for
the
the
public
public.
packet.
Okay, all right. So you'll be able to see, I think it's online, isn't it, Scott? Is this online?
No, that's
Oh,
It's
that
not.
section's
It's not.
not.
Oh, okay.
But it's in the
All right.
folder out here. for
All
us
right,
to
well,
see.
I could have gone through the list by the time it took me all these. Sure. Sherwood from Sashabaw to Baldwin, Perry Lake from Seymour Lake to Granger, Dartmouth from, not Form, Oak Hill to Seymour Lake, Ramsey from Sashabaw to Seymour Lake, Granger from Hadley to Glass, and Kent from Hadley to Granger. So what we're asking to do is have a traffic study, which will be done by the state police, come out and give us some hard data on those locations. Then we can make a more of a informed decision along with Lieutenant Glover as to whether we post them or go with the recommendation of the Road Commission and leave them unposted.
So if they're unposted, what's the speed limit? 55.
Yeah, and therein lies the problem for the lieutenant and the guys in at the substation, if it's not posted,
How do you know?
how do you enforce it? How do you write tickets for it?
Right.
So, and I had slight misgivings on the recommendations of the road commission, because I thought it was more of a CYA kind of case, or because they were saying, well, if you post it, then you're giving a false sense of security to people driving the roads, that you can actually travel that speed, and that just seemed a little bit iffy to me. So,
Slower.
yeah, oh yeah. So I'm always going to put my money with the guys in the uniform, so I'll go with LT on this one.
Can I jump on that?
Yeah.
Just to finish that up, there is a kind of a major cost, you know, when they took down all these signs way back 10 years ago or whenever it was now. We knew that hopefully eventually the signs would be going back up, but I don't think anybody realized it's pretty expensive for every half mile that we want to post signs. So if we get approval, then it's also going to be a cost
Right.
decision then at some point as
The
well.
cost projection from the road commission is $1,400 per sign, and they have to post it every half mile.
Right.
So if you take a 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile stretch,
It's not 14 per sign. It
I thought it was 14 per
14
sign.
per half mile,
Right.
which includes the amount of signs, because they have to post every half mile. So you'll have one at the beginning, and you'll have it both ways.
Okay. All right.
Because it's expensive.
Well, could
But
we
it is
find-
expensive, yeah.
But could we find out what if this is gonna come to the board, could we have a cost of what it
When
would
it
be?
comes to the board.
Yes.
So we would know,
Yeah.
but I think that, I mean, if you're talking safety and you're talking,
But this is a report, so when we
Right.
get to the discussion.
Right.
we'll
I'm just
be
saying, yeah.
discussing it. Okay.
to have all that, have the safety and all that type of stuff for us.
All right.
That'll be it.
Thank you. Chris.
Couple things, the planning commission did not meet, so I have no report regarding the planning commission. Regarding the trail subcommittee, I will have to say we had a very successful meeting on the 25th of July in the township offices. People present were myself, Terry Darnell, Kathy, Candy Hill, Jen Bickle, Paul Barber, and Dwight Woodbridge, who are the resident committee members. And I will have to say this about the committee members. They are all top-notch, excellent people. I'm very, very happy with the people that we were able to get for the committee. They're all doing a lot of work already, and my hat's off to them. Anyways, what we did was we did some job descriptions at the first meeting, and Kathy was chairman. Terry's vice chairman. Candy Hill is going to be secretary. Dwight Woodbridge is going to be the project manager, and Jen Bickle is going to be assistant project manager. With regards, we reviewed the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Copies of it were given to people, and township master plans pertaining to trails were distributed. There was an overview of the Brandon Trail history that was given by Kristen Wiltfang, who's a senior planner from Oakland County. I think some of you have seen her presentation of what's transpired so far with Brandon Township trail planning. SEMCOG has traffic counts. There are Strava heat maps that show trail bikers and walkers. Kristen was able to answer many questions from our membership, including road right of way was defined. The road is 66 feet across, usually marked by utility poles. Any improvements, modifications made by the landowner to the right of way will not be reimbursed. Any land purchases outside of the roadway way will need to be negotiated by the township with the individual landowners and are not included in the cost estimates provided. The grant will cover the initial building of the path. It can be discontinued / exhausted before the path is finished. Annual maintenance and other associated costs of the path will be the township's responsibility. Now, there's an ongoing right now question gathering process. All questions are going to Dwight, but there is a website, I know there is a website that you can send your questions to.
Township website.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. Is that what it is? Okay. So the one that Candy wanted to put in didn't make it?
Well, no, it's her
Okay,
address
that's right, I'm
is
sorry.
located on the Township website.
You're right. It's her address. So it's there. Action items, everyone, and that includes all your residents are to send questions to Dwight and through the website. Kathy will send questions from subcommittee applicants to Dwight. Candy will send questions from the public to Dwight. Her contact information will be put in the citizen on the website, and I believe it already was. Items for discussion at the next meeting is we're going to be talking about deadline for answering the county is in October. Brandon needs to have a yes or no answer as to whether or not the trail is going to go through the community. Determine what criteria will be used to answer this question and the method of gathering the data. Number two, organizing questions, what can be answered now, what can be answered later. That's going to be a huge priority. And finally, gathering answers and assigning job duties to the different members of the subcommittee. And like I said, many of the subcommittee members are already hard at work answering questions and getting information. And my hat's off to all of them for working so diligently. Next meeting, for all you folks that want to attend, is this Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And that's it. Respectfully submitted by me and Candy Hill, and, I'm sorry, yes, and Kathy Thurman. Any questions?
Is there a deadline for our questions? I gave one set and then I emailed another one, and now after reading this weekend and listening to you discuss, I have a few more. Is it too late? For me to submit
Keep
questions?
sending.
I think that there's going to be eventually a cutoff date. I'm not sure if it's,
Maybe
I think we were shooting for the 9th, our next meeting.
Okay,
But-
well, I have them here, so I'll give them to
Yeah,
somebody after.
yeah, just give them to one of us and we'll get them to
Thank
to
you.
The
Dwight.
best way would be to email them to.
Yeah, that is the best way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or what, email them to Candy. Candy's,
Candy.
Oh, I've been sending
So-
them to Dwight, I think, because he
That's
sent
good.
a list
Yep.
and then I had one missing, so I. emailed them
better
back.
yet, send them right to the project manager. Any other questions by anybody?
Chris, that's your report to the board.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's all right.
Sorry
Anything
about
else tonight?
No.
All right, thank you. Treasurer's report.
Well, it's hard to believe August is here. Taxes are coming in at a steady pace. We still haven't received any of our large banks, so we're still working hard to keep everything caught up on a daily basis. We've been lucky enough to had a part-time fill-in person helping this last few weeks, and we're really looking forward to having her be our permanent part-time assistant. Residents have about 6 more weeks before taxes are due without penalty. Remember that we do take partial payments. Dog tags are $30 now. We accept cash and checks at the window. I hope the summer's enjoyable for everyone, and remember, Septemberfest is on the way. Done.
Oh, good. All right, the clerk is absent this evening, so as far as the supervisor's report, I just wanted to start out by, like everyone else, and wish Susan Bromley
There's been a break.
the best of luck with her new position, and we will miss you and miss your articles. So I hope, if it doesn't work out, come on back. From the DNR, everyone be on the lookout for invasive red swamp crayfish. The red swamp crayfish are a serious concern because of their ability to damage earthen structures and the threats they pose to the environment. But there was a citizen in Novi that reported seeing the red swamp crayfish in a retention pond, and the DNR went in and they found 111 specimens that they took from the pond. So they look like they're only 2 to 5 inches in length, and they're red, and they resemble a miniature lobster.
Are they edible?
They're small.
They are.
Okay.
They are.
The Road Commission for Oakland County has completed 3 rounds of their dust control for the year, so they've got 2 more rounds to go yet. I attended an MTA workshop July 28th, and that was on supervising assessing departments, mitigating risk, evaluating programs, and funding projects. So it was very worthwhile. I attended a ribbon cutting on Friday for the Skeleton Key, a new store that's on South Street. So I encourage everyone to visit. They have a lot of interesting items in there for sale, some antique-ish things and some kind of whimsical. So it's a cute store and urge everyone to go. Let's see. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office is offering free gun locks. And I just talked to Lieutenant Glover. He said he has quite a few still available. So if you would like to get a gun lock, you can go to the substation at 15 South Street. I know the clerk was going to read a few things. We all signed the Principles of Township Governance of Excellence last meeting. We passed it, but we're looking for everyone to stop in the clerk's office and sign it. So I know a lot of people have not signed it yet, so we have to get into the clerk's office and do that. So it's always good to review that from time to time. Also, it's been pointed out that we could run our meetings a little bit closer to Robert's rules. So there's 3 rules I wanted to point out to the rest of the board that I'm gonna try to help concentrate on. One is remarks must be confined to the merits of the pending question. So stay on target, please. And members' motives must never be attacked. And then all remarks must be addressed to or through the chair. Members must not speak directly to one another, as far as Robert's rules. And I passed this out earlier, but if you would like another copy of these, you can always ask me and I'll give them to you again.
Was that in our packet?
No, it was in a prior packet.
Okay.
Probably when we were having an organizational workshop, you got it then.
Okay.
But if you need it again, I can give it to you.
So I have a question about the last one.
Sure.
Can you repeat that, please?
Members must not speak directly to one another.
So if I'm,
It should go through the chair. So you're addressing the chair. So if there's a question, a proposal, and you have a comment, your comment should go through the chair. It shouldn't go directly to another trustee.
so if I, let's say, put something on the new business as a trustee, and someone had a question for me, or I had a question for the trustee or the treasurer, or whoever put it on, or even if the recreation department put it on, I have to tell you and then you have to repeat it to them? That's gonna
No,
take
you
a
would
lot
say, through me, Madam Chair, or however you want to address me, I would like to know and state your question, and then it could be answered.
Okay, but they will be answered, and what if you decide you don't like my question? Does that mean? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why,
So you don't get in a fight with me,
okay, but, okay.
in a nutshell.
I understand that, I just want to make sure that that doesn't mean that you might not like what my question is and then it doesn't get asked or something. I don't think that'll happen. Okay.
All right, that completes the supervisor's report. For correspondence this evening, we have Zoning Board of Appeals meeting minutes of May 24th, 2017. We have Oakland County Resolution for National Recovery Month. The Parks and Recreation Subcommittee meeting minutes of July 25th, 2017. Trail Subcommittee meeting minutes of July 25th, 2017. The Road Improvement Subcommittee meeting minutes of July 27th, 2017. So that brings us to citizens' comment. So also, the comments from the citizens should be addressed to the board. And you would have 3 minutes to speak. And first, we take comments on agenda items. So if you would like to speak to any agenda items, now would be your opportunity. If you have something other than an agenda item, you can wait till the end of the meeting and then we'll hear your comment then. So is there anyone that would like to speak on agenda items? But before we do this, we had a question last time. Could I see by a show of hands if there's anyone here that is not a Brandon Township resident? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much. You're still allowed to participate. You're still allowed to participate. Oh, okay. All right. All right, thank you. All right, if there's anyone that would like to speak at this time on an agenda item, please step up to the podium. Is anyone that wanted to say anything? Yes, on behalf of your father. So state your name.
Yes, I'm Jeff Bordner, and I'm representing my father, Bruce Bordner, who is a resident of Brandon Township on Sherwood Road. So you can imagine what my comment might be. But let me start by saying I'm also going to miss Susan's article.
Sorry, could you,
Do you have an address on Sherwood?
4220 Sherwood Road.
Thank you.
what was your father's name? I'm sorry.
Bruce Bordner.
Thank you.
And they bought that home in 1971. That's where I grew up. Went to school with Lieutenant Glover. Spent a lot of time on Route A and Route C of the proposed trails on my bicycle and snowmobile. So anyways, my father is represented tonight by me with the following comments. He is adamantly opposed to Route A, and furthermore, any route that encroaches on any private property, whether it be in the right-of-way or not, but not necessarily opposed to a trail. So that being said, any trail plan he feels should allow for sufficient public safety patrolling and trash maintenance after the fact. So that should be factored in. It would seem to him that Route A would be prohibitively expensive considering the amount of timber that would need to be cleared along the roadways and the wetlands that would have to be bridged. The number 5 million something that I saw on one of the flyers that was left on his door seems extremely low given the amount of land that would have to be cleared. An alternative he feels to the trails would be just further reduction and posting of reduced speed limits on the routes of the roads that would be used as the trail and associated enforcement. And finally, not to be offensive at all, but he had a question about whether or not the vote to remove Route C was appropriate, giving Trustee Broughton's proximity to the trail. Perhaps he should have recused himself, and that would have left a 3-3 vote, which would have not removed Route C. Just a thing to consider in the future. If there's a personal connection to the trail, there probably should not be a vote cast by that member. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Mr. Rummel?
My name is Chad Rummel. Spoken here a couple different times. I'm going to save my trail comments until the subject's actually discussed later on. First, I'll also say thank you, Susan. For those who don't know, Susan actually took personal pictures of my property during the Enbridge pipeline debacle twice. So thank you very much. I did appreciate your stories. May not always agreed with what you wrote, but I did always appreciate it even from the opposite side. So,
What was your address on Granger?
5556 Granger Road.
Chad, can I interrupt? Just want to make sure you get your comments on whatever you want to say. Is once we just begin discussion up here, you can't comment at that point, just so you know.
No, well, we have the citizens' comments later on.
At the end,
I'll
right.
step back up
Okay.
if I need to.
Okay.
My first comment is kind of relative to the police report. I guess this is the second or third time I've heard Lieutenant Glover give his report, and every time I keep hearing everything's going up, there's more crimes, there's more calls. Have we noticed, is there a definitive trend? Do we, or has there been any reaction to that trend? What is that? Is it getting out of hand? Is it not? I'm not an expert, obviously this gentleman is, so are we looking at that, trying to get a hold of it before it gets out of control? The second comment I have is actually a comment from you, Kathy. You mentioned the building department report about the positiveness of the amount of houses being built. I understand that from a tax base, incentive. But again, this is a rural community. You shouldn't be looking at always building houses. There should be something else that's positive from the building department, because eventually you will run out of land and all we'll have is subdivisions around here, and right, will be another Oxford or another Rochester maybe that we don't really want, most of us don't want. So just a comment to your comment there. So anyway, thank you for your service, officer. Thank you guys too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Just to point out, Scott, that would be a perfect example where you would say to the chair, may I ask a,
Fair enough.
or point something out,
Right.
okay? It's gonna be hard.
Hi, my name is Star Unangst, and I live at 3501 Lakeview Drive. And I've been here 31 years now, my husband and I have. And we really like the rural character of the community. He being from Huntington Woods and I from Royal Oak, we doubly appreciate it because we're from crowded cities in the first place. And as we were driving here tonight, we were noticing that we were driving right along the route that is being considered for the trail. We went from Seymour Lake Road to M15 to here. And we looked and we couldn't believe the amount of wetlands and things like that that those trails would have to cross and cover, and the expense. I know for a fact there are at least 2 streams along Seymour Lake Road it would have to cross, and there'd be bridges and probably wooden walkways, that kind of thing, going across the wetlands, and the trees that would have to come out and the foliage. Right now, we are across the lake, and we can look across the lake peacefully and see trees. If that trail were there, we would look across the lake and see probably a trail or bicyclists and many houses. Right now, those trees and foliage, they also add to the atmosphere because they block a lot of the road noise. And it's very dangerous around those curves. We've had at least 2 vehicles that I know of go in or near the lake, going around those curves. It'd be pretty hard to imagine that being a safe route. And the expense of all those wetlands, not only the wetlands on Seymour Lake, but the wetlands when you're going by M15. What goes on when you hit those parts where the lake is almost up to the road? So I'd like all those things to be considered. I would hope that the township wouldn't try to push this on people who don't want it. I mean, I personally did a walk around the area to my neighbors, and I asked door to door, would they want this near their home? And they said definitely no. So
Out
all I
with
have to say.
the awkward way. Could you ask the young lady for her last name?
yes, Unangst, UNANGST.
Thank you.
And actually, you're one of my former residents. I used to work in Huntington Woods.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Star. Would anyone else like to make a comment? In the back? Oh,
Well, I don't want to dump on Star. My name's Dave Wilson. I live at 3635 Lakeview. I am one of Star's neighbors. I am in favor of the trail. I have been from the get-go. I look at the trail as a major opportunity for this community. Opportunities don't come along often, and when they do, you need to recognize them and seize the moment and take the opportunity. Now, I know there's lots of alternatives here, and it seems to me in all the meetings that I've been to and listened, the primary thing is, yeah, I like the trail maybe, but I don't want it by me. And I think at the end of the day, we need to assess all the different trails, all the different opportunities, and make a decision based on total overall cost, least impact to the environment, least impact to all the individuals. But at the end of the day, it's going to affect somebody. It's going to affect somebody negatively, and it's going to affect somebody positively. It's the nature of the business. It's compromise. Everything that you do is compromise. I think, again, this is a tremendous opportunity for this community. If we don't do something, the trail's going to happen regardless. The trail's going to come through. It's going to go through somewhere. We may as well get on that bandwagon because it's going to pass us by, and we'll miss that opportunity. Communities like Oxford, communities like Goodrich even, are on board, and we will be this backwater while the other communities are in the mainstream. And I've lived in this community for 50 years. I've seen this town be a vibrant small town going to a sleepy little town and on its way to off the map. And I'm concerned about if we continue not to do nothing, we fall behind. So we need to, again, seize this opportunity and do something positive for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. In the back. Yes.
I'm Cheryl Rohr at 1765 Hummer Lake Road. And my first thought when I hear it's an opportunity, I think it's an opportunity for us to stand and stick with our mission statement of respect for our rural nature, for our rural roots, for who we are, for why people come to live here. People don't want to come here and have an Oxford or Lake Orion. Then they would move to Lake Orion or Oxford or anywhere else where they have millions of amenities. This is a unique place to be. We've been here almost 20 years, and our kids want to live here. And if it turns into another Clarkson, then what makes us special anymore? I mean, it's been founded in what, 1850 something? And 48?
37. I don't know what happened to
Well,
us.
It's been a lot of years. It's been a long time. It's been a long time, and people rode their bikes, and people walked, and people did all these things that they do that they can do now. Nobody is excluded from walking or riding their bikes or doing whatever. I keep thinking about the fiscal nightmare that this is going to cause, this small, rural, lovely place. The things we will lose, the private property, the neighbors, you know, just the things that will be lost by this. Our taxes increase. They talk about the shortfalls that we would be responsible for. What if they decide halfway through to stop the trail and half of our stuff is ripped up and we've lost everything and now we're not connected anymore? Woo, we're not part of the connectivity. That's a problem. That's a problem. Nobody runs their house like this. Why would we want to run our township like this? The fiscal responsibility is just too great of a risk for this township. The taxes are already, I think, high, but that's me. I mean, you might not think it is, but I do. And they're only going to go up. And you guys already are constantly trying to make the budgets work with what we have. Why would we want to take on more? I also have a question about the, not a question, a comment. If we're still voting to whether or not this trail should come through, and I disagree that, I mean, if it goes through, fine. It doesn't mean it has to go through Brandon. It does not have to go through Brandon. And why are we discussing which route as opposed to do we want route or not a route? It doesn't matter what route because somebody's going to lose their property. Somebody's going to have a trail in their front yard. Doesn't matter which route you choose. If it goes through Brandon, then that's what's going to happen. So if that's an issue, the other thing. But why are we considering the SEMCOG membership for $1,500 whose sole purpose is to fill in the gaps of the trail systems? whose development of the Iron Bell Trail is one of these regionally significant projects. Why would we put out money for something that we haven't even, as a board or a township, agreed to do? The same thing with the Iron Bell, what was the other one? The engineering. A lot of that information is free. They're gonna drive the trail. Have we not done that? And you want to charge another $1,500. So there's $3,000 spent the month before you're going to vote, whether or not we're even going to do this. This is not being fiscally responsible. Trail or no trail. I mean, I like to bike, but I don't want it in my township. I think the amount that it's going to cost this township is going to be so great that we'll never be able to make it up.
Thank you. Yes, sir. No, you've got to come up here. That way you get to be on TV.
My name is Mike Youngmeyer. I live at 3501 Lakeview Drive. I'm Star's husband. With the last name's different. That's another story. Well, you know, I think this is going to be a crushing blow to our community if we went down Seymour Lake Road. It's going to cost a fortune to maintain the amount of structure that's going to have to be put in for the wetlands. You're saying $1,500. They were saying they were going to give you a ballpark figure. Well, at a ballpark coming over here, I would say there's about a mile's worth of wetlands that they would have to go over. Across from us is a feeder stream. If you cover that all up, I don't even know which side of the road it's going to be on. Nobody's even said that, you know? It's just like, we're going that away, you know? That reminds me of when they were talking about putting the people mover down Woodward Avenue to Royal Oak, and they paid $1 million for it and they said, well, what was the conclusion? You go that away, down Woodward Avenue, you know? But this, I think, this is going to hurt the community. Prices, the cost of the homes are going to drop. You take one guy, supposedly, killed the best route. My question would be, how many signatures do I have to get from Seymour Lake Road, and it would be a lot of them, to get it to stop and forget it? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Dale Kramer. I live in the community. You know, I was going to wait till the end of do my citizens' comments, but the negativity has gotten, so I have to stop.
Could you?
I had a story. What's that?
What's your address, please?
I have two of them, but 1964 Viola, and then 2557 South Ortonville Road. You know, the story I was talking to the building inspector the other day about. He was with the Drain Commission, and I grew up in Lake Orion when the sewers came through there in the late 70s. And they had the same kind of negativity. No one wanted the sewers to come in. They were going to be expensive, disruptive, tear up the roads, inconvenient. And luckily, they put them in. You know, maybe everyone loves the growth in Lake Orion, but, you know, the sewers were a good thing, and they were federally funded, same as Oxford got them. But Ortonville turned them down because of the inconvenience back then. And they were free. Would have been mostly free. You know, we're going to look back on this decision the same way. It's free, it's an opportunity, it's funded by the state, our tax dollars. You know, they talked earlier at the podium about the expenses. The expenses are covered mostly by the state, our tax dollars. And I've talked to just as many people in the community. I went out and stopped at subdivisions down M15. I've talked to business owners. Everyone I speak to is pretty much in favor of the trails. And, you know, how does the trail have any negative impact? I don't see any. You go down M15 and go down Seymour Lake Road. There's 50 feet from my white line to the front of my property. That's not my property. That's an easement. That's owned. I'm not paying taxes on it. It's not mine. And, you know, if they want to put the trail through there, I'm happy for it. You know, I'm in favor of the trail anyway, but, you know, people are thinking that's their property. It's not theirs. And it's owned by the state, correct? Now, anyhow, I think that the trail, Lake Orion, Oxford, all the other communities can support the trail. They can support the maintenance of the trail. I don't see why this community can't also do so. But most importantly, it's going to give them a sidewalk, a safe place for people to ride their bikes and walk along M15 that we don't have. We don't have any of that in this community. Every small town north of us has at least got one sidewalk or two on both sides of the road, even Goodrich north of us. You know, this is just an opportunity that I think we need to pick a route. That's the first thing to do. Pick a route that has the least amount of impact. Least amount of impact is M15 to Seymour Lake because you got the least amount of maintenance because you're going to have the least amount of trees and debris to move. You got the least amount of fire and police protection because it's right along M15. There's not going to be any.
Necessity. The trail is not a necessity. I'd also like to bring before you the attached information, which basically is in regards to the trail route that you're potentially thinking about, the Seymour Lake to M15 trail route. And what that provides is it's provided by our township master plan, so it comes directly from this office. And you can see the most dangerous and unsafe intersections in Brandon Township as a whole are found along Seymour Lake Road and M15. These are intersections where you would be placing innocent men, women, and children along 4,000-pound weapons, unprotected with no safety mechanisms to protect them from distracted drivers, loss of control, other inclement weather that tends to happen in Michigan. To consider a Seymour Lake Road to M15 trail route is for you to vote to place a resident of this community into a false sense of security and life-threatening situation when they cross that intersection, because they're going to have to cross it. For that reason alone, Seymour Lake Road to M15 should not be considered. Ms. Thurman is going to ask you to spend more money on a non-designated route for an approximate cost. And the engineering firm went to great lengths in their email to make sure to spell out that it is very generic, ballpark figure, and not actual costs. We need hard costs, actual costs, not more ballpark figures. Why spend more money to have a glorified ballpark figure on a corridor that is dangerous and not even a route in question? Would you buy a car? Would you buy a house based on a ballpark figure? We need to know the exact cost. Ms. Thurman and other special interest groups, along with big politicians in Lansing, are asking you to do just that, board members. They're asking you to sign off on something without understanding the true costs, monetarily or safety. Furthermore, I have provided a second page to you, which also comes directly from the Township Master Plan, showing the acreage units in Brandon. You can clearly see that by placing your eyes towards the Seymour Lake corridor, you are invading smaller parcels as opposed to the larger parcels found to the north of the township. The township park and other recreations are also found in the northern part of the township. If you're going to consider a trail for recreation, it would only make logical sense to place a route along the larger parcels, impacting less individuals and being closer to the recreation that we currently have in the township. The third and fourth pages are pictures of homes, front and back, that I just happened to be driving by this weekend by chance when I was going to get an oil change at Wally Edgar, and thought I have to take some pictures of these trails that are going in by our neighboring communities because they are destroying the neighboring communities. You can see the homes and how close they are to the routes, the markings on the trees that are to be taken out, the for sale signs that are already going up, the wetlands that are being invaded. We do not want this for our community. Do not sell us out like our neighboring communities have sold out their residents. Now, I have invited members of the board to visit my 2 parcels on Seymour Lake Road, and all have discussed the possible route, talked to me, and even Ms. De Palma has spent several hours at my property and along the property of my neighbors. Unfortunately, one member of this board and of the Trail Subcommittee has yet to respond to little me, two-parcel owner, tax-paying citizen, Mr. Cordella. Mr. Cordella has been making blanket statements and belittling the good residents of this community that do not sit in his secret meetings with a pro-trail village resident. Mr. Cordella is using language that frankly is offensive. I have read the artifacts that were attached to
You
this
have
evening's agenda,
30 more seconds,
where Mr.
Roy.
Cordella questioned other board members in a condescending tone and manner. Mr. Cordella was using the acronym AINO. For those of you that do not know what that stands for, American in name only. For an individual to question someone's citizenship or their patriotism is unacceptable to me, sir. Unacceptable, especially given the position that you sit in. It is not acceptable. I urge the board, after several years of this neighbor against neighbor, street against street, route against route, we are nowhere. Please consider no trail in Brandon Township.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? To where the photos, I'm curious, is this Lake Orion?
No.
It's not, okay, because I know Lake Orion is currently doing the same thing.
These
Where are they
pictures
from?
here are along Clarkson Orion Road, but it's actually part of the Independence Township.
Okay.
These pictures here are along Sashua, just outside Brandon Township. where the
Okay.
curves are
Oh, where they're,
before and
Oh,
where they're
okay.
putting
All right,
the
okay.
trail up Sashaba.
Thank you, I was gonna ask the same thing.
Independence, was this one?
Clarkston.
Clarkston, okay.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment in the back here? I'm sorry. All right, you'll be next.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Kelly Wilson, and I'm at 3635 Lakeview Drive. I am commenting not necessarily on any specific trail route, just on the trail in general. And I sent you all an email earlier this evening, and I'm just going to read from that email that I sent. I grew up in Ortonville, and I graduated from Brandon High School. I was proud to grow up in this community, proud to be a part of this community. And after living out of state for about 6 years, I moved back in 2013, and I moved back to the township about 8 months ago to start two businesses. I have a nutrition business, and I also have a small diversified vegetable farm. And I moved back to this area because of my love for this community and for how much this community gave to me as I was growing up, and my desire to invest my skills and my knowledge in this community for its betterment. As I have spent time in this community with more adult eyes, I've noticed the decline, and I'm saddened by that, but I have also seen a lot of potential and opportunity in this community, and to me, this trail represents one of the biggest ones. I think the Iron Bell Trail would allow myself and other people who are interested in maybe making this a home for their future families or young families, a safe place to be active. I'm passionate about an active and healthy lifestyle. It's obviously what I preach professionally, but I also live that personally. And I'd love to have a space in our own community to run, to bike, to, with my future children, have a safe space. Right now, I have to travel outside of this community that I love to access those things. And I know that there are a lot of different proposed trail routes, and that we haven't decided upon one that would be the best option for everyone, but I would just strongly encourage you to at least consider keeping this trail in this community. I think it would attract more young families and infuse some vibrancy into this community that we desperately need. So, and please read my full email that I sent to you. There are links to a couple studies and things on the benefits, especially related to the health impacts on communities that are along trail corridors. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Shannon Johns. I live at 1745 Hummer Lake Road, and I am opposed to the trail anywhere we put it. It does not sound like it's a very safe, there just doesn't sound like there's any safe or fiscally responsible place to put it. And as far as being mainstream and all that, a lot of people didn't move here to be mainstream. They moved here to be away from the mainstream. I know personally, I lived in Clarkston and we moved here. I was pretty mainstream. I liked the fact that I have my 2.5 acres, my pond, my big hill, so I don't have to see the road, which, if you do go down the Homer Lake Road, I will lose my hill. I still haven't quite figured out how you would put anything in there without tearing that whole hill out. And I'm still concerned about who is maintaining this. Like, who shovels it? Who's, like, if somebody decides that my pond looks like a great place to go for a swim and they drowned, who's responsible for that? Because, I mean, do I have to put a fence around my pond like you do pools? Because I'm pretty sure the deer would protest, probably violently. But I really think that before we get into this, because there's so much fighting about where should we put this trail, no, don't put it here, no, don't put it there. We need to sit back and look at how much realistically this is going to cost us, no matter where we put it. And then we didn't need to decide if, the big if we're even going to do this. There's a lot of fighting going on in the community that doesn't need to happen if we're not going to do this. And I know there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, that'd be great. It's not their front yard that's going to get ripped up to put a trail in. It's not, I didn't move to the country to get away from all of that to have a bike path put right in my front yard. I could have had that if I would have just stayed where I was at, because I did have a bike path basically in my front yard. But people move to get away from that kind of stuff, not to just have it follow them. And I really think that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And I know we do this comment and we throw questions around, but I have yet to see any answers to any of these questions, any actual, factual, hard answers to what we're going to do and how we're going to do this. And until then, all of this back and forth is just a waste of time. We need to decide if we're doing this trail or not, if it's even fiscally responsible and it's something that the township and the people want to take on, because that's the most important thing. And then we can all start fighting about where we're going to put it, because I'm sure we will. So, thank you.
Could you spell your last name? I'm sorry.
Yes, Johns, Johns.
Oh, that was easy. Okay,
Yes.
thanks. I always make things more difficult than they really are.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time on an agenda item? Yes? Dwight?
Dwight Woodbridge, 151 Harbor Point. My only comment, and it's relative to the audience actually, as part of the subcommittee, we are compiling all of the concerns and the issues.
Should be addressing the board, though.
As the subcommittee as a member of the subcommittee for the trails, we are compiling all the questions. And the comment is that the best way for us to compile them is if they're not trying to take away from people coming in and speaking, but if they email the link that's on the township website, that's very, very helpful, because it'll make it a lot easier to compile and categorize all the issues that everybody has. And like I said, I don't mean to take away from people speaking, but to get it down in print is going to be very helpful for the subcommittee and the committee to make a good decision on the trail.
Can I just ask a question to that, or do I need to go with that?
You need to come back up, so we'll see if there's anyone else, and then we'll come back to you, okay? Is that all you have?
Yes.
Paul?
A couple, Paul Barber, 2277 Hummer Lake. On the right-of-way, Dale made a couple comments that that's not your property. That's actually not true. Mine goes to the middle of the road. So the 33 feet that there, I own that, I'm paying taxes on that. It's not the same for everybody. It's different throughout the whole township. So that's going to need to be looked at when the route has been decided. Number two, coming up M15. I guess I'm confused. Maybe somebody up here can clarify this. if it's coming up, we want sidewalks on M15 and you want a bike trail on M15. Now, if it's the Iron Bell Trail, can you have people walking on the, I mean, is it a walking trail or is it a biking trail? That's a huge issue, I think.
You need to send your questions to Dwight.
Oh, I've sent Dwight a whole bunch of questions. And the other thing is in our subcommittee meeting, maybe somebody can run the numbers here for me. I looked at Route A. You have 4.3 miles of wetlands. Now, Kristen made the comment that it's $600 a linear foot. If you take 5,280 and time that by 600, you're looking at $3.2 million a mile. So you're talking about $12 million of boardwalk for Route A. So I'm not sure where the engineering firm came out with 5 for the whole trail, because the whole trail's like 7 on Route A, and we're only talking 4.3, and that's just wetlands. That's not any other ravines and any of that kind of stuff. So I don't know where this. I mean, they just like going 90 miles an hour down the road and just looking left and right and saying, "Oh, it's $5 million. Good number." I think that's what the board wants to hear. So before we, maybe vote on that tonight, someone else brought that up. You guys might want to just even check my numbers. And maybe I'm doing it wrong because it just doesn't add up to me. That's all. Thanks. And maybe you can address the right-of-way, because it's 33 from the center going each way. It's not 66 on either side. Maybe on I-75, it's, I don't know what it is. It's probably 200 feet on either side. But anyways, I'm good. Thanks.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to make a comment on agenda items? All right, ma'am, you can come back up. You're all set? You're all good? Oh, good. All right, last call. Anyone wanting to make a comment on agenda? For agenda items?
Oh, okay, all right.
You've been hanging around in different places from here. Okay, we will continue with our meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. We each have a letter to read to add to the agenda, so I'll let the treasurer start with hers.
Okay. My name is Cheryl Doherty, not me. My husband and I bought our home on South Sashabaw Road and moved here in August of 16. Although we've been here just a year, we've enjoyed it very much. This is our retirement home, and after many years of living in a subdivision with noise, traffic, and lots of activity, we are enjoying the quiet living in the country. In that regard, we are alarmed to hear that the proposed Route A for building of the Iron Bell Trail would come right down our street. My husband and I both lived near trails in the past, and the thought of the construction activities followed by the noise of the users randomly coming down the street within earshot of our home at all times is not acceptable. Trails are notorious meeting places. Friends, kids, even undesirables use these trails for other than what they are meant. Kids congregate in groups along the trail to talk, laugh loudly, and who knows, perhaps share drugs or other immoral activities. Keep in mind that such remote locations for this trail would also create safety concerns for vulnerable children. Pedophiles and creeps love this kind of quiet atmosphere to carry out their unthinkable deeds. If I had little kids, this would be a serious concern for me. Keep in mind that Oakland County is already one of the highest sex trafficking areas in Michigan. Mrs. Darnell, she spelled it wrong. We moved to the country deliberately to have a safe, quiet lifestyle, and I'd venture a guess that that's why many of our neighbors moved out here too. We cannot be the only ones who have vacated the city in order to have a more rural, serene home life. Also be aware that this section of Sashabaw Road is not safe. People drive this stretch at top speeds, and it seems like it would be incredibly unsafe to place a trail here when people drive upwards of 50 to 60 miles an hour down a gravel road. I wear sunglasses or safety glasses when I go out to the street to get my mail out of the mailbox, since there are frequently cars kicking up gravel as they fly by. Additional concerns are increased homeowner insurance, lower property values, maintenance of trails, natural drainage, wildlife disruption, and increased trash and clutter on the trail. In closing, I would like to restate that we are not in favor of the route for the Iron Bell Trail. Underlined, bolded. coming down Sashabaw Road between Granger and Sherwood. We like the peace and quiet we have now and are not anxious to give any of it up or any of our property to create something that could be built somewhere else. Also, the safety factors should be highly considered in your determination to build this trail elsewhere. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make the trail route meeting held at 3 o'clock due to my work schedule. Certainly, I would have made efforts to attend this evening's meeting like I have in the past, but I'll be out of town on August 7th, and your next monthly meeting, or I would be there to discuss these matters myself. I understand that there is a renewed emphasis on making a decision by October, so I'm very anxious for my comments to reach the board. In this regard, in my absence, I would appreciate you reading this letter to them at the August 7th meeting. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I wonder if
Cheryl
she
Doherty.
knows that part of Sashabaw Road's gonna get paved. She just moved.
I don't know her.
Okay, I have a letter here from Mary Wilson, who was not able to make it. She says, "Dear Kathy, I'm unable to attend tomorrow night's meeting regarding the Iron Bell Trail. Consequently, I want to go on the record of my strong support for the Iron Bell Trail." Bolded. Segment to run through Brandon Township. As you're probably aware, there are numerous unbiased scientific, example, they are not emotional, studies which document the benefits of community trails. Being part of the Iron Bell Trail Network offers Ortonville and Brandon Township residents and business owners access to health, economic, environmental, and community benefits. I trust that the Trail Subcommittee has compiled a comprehensive list for the board's review and consideration. As a sixth-generation resident of Brandon Township, I have a strong desire to see our community regain its vitality. I'm not sure where or when the downslide started, but I feel the Iron Bell Trail can help fuel resurgence. The presence of the trail in Brandon Township would provide increased access to health recreation opportunities for active travelers, children, seniors, and people of all abilities, safety of residents biking and hiking along the trail as opposed to heavily trafficked roads in our community, economic benefits by providing corridors for greater access to Ortonville businesses, example, A&W, Frosty Boy, Subway, Annie McPhee's, Chase Bank, Genesis Credit Union, and other area restaurants and businesses. The potential to attract new businesses and create new jobs related to trail-based tourism, example, a bike rental and repair shop, coffee shop, bed and breakfast facilities. Enhanced property value. In national surveys, consumers have repeatedly chosen trails and walkability as desired neighborhood amenities, boosting local real estate values. Environmental benefits by alleviating some of the negative effects of intense motorization, air pollution, excessive noise, and use of fossil fuels. Community building by building a corridor that connects community neighborhoods with schools, Brandon Township Library, Crossman Park, Senior Center, Old Mill, the ball fields, and other downtown areas. While I hate to admit it, I'm getting older, and as I age, I access community amenities and how they match up to what I desire. I assess community amenities and how they match up to what I desire. I would like to remain in Brandon Township and age in place. However, I want to live in a community that offers opportunities for me to be active by walking and biking. Few factors contribute so much to successful aging as regular physical activity. I'd also like to feel safe from vehicular traffic while walking and biking. The Iron Bell through Brandon Township would allow this. I would also like my property to increase in value. The trail through Brandon Township would also help do that. As with any proposal, I realize there are drawbacks. However, as I assess them from an unemotional scientific standpoint, they are minor when compared to the major benefits of being part of the statewide community network. I hope that the decision made by the board is unbiased and reflects the collective views of your constituents. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Mary A. Wilson. All right, so that will complete our citizens' comments on agenda items. We have no discussion items this evening, so we can move right on to our consent agenda. On our consent agenda, we have regular meeting minutes of July 10th, 2017. We have regular bills in the amount of $15,397.40. We have prepays in the amount of $225,760.07. We have township benefits from payroll account of $31,473.34. And we have trustee timesheets in the amount of $776. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. I approve.
Is there any discussion on the consent agenda this evening?
Did that have the changes at Candy?
When did Candy?
No, for the bills.
Yeah, I believe so.
I thought
Okay,
Yeah,
I have a motion by trustee Marshall, supported by trustee Cordella, to approve the consent agenda as presented. If there's no discussion, roll call, please.
Marshall,
Yes.
Allen is absent with notice. Broughton,
Yes.
Darnall,
Yes.
DePalma,
Yes.
Cordella,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. So now we can move on to new business, and our first item is hiring of a part-time assistant.
Okay, as you guys know, the treasurer's office has been without quality help since last November. Trying to find the gem to complete our staff, we've placed ads in newspapers, which were totally unsuccessful. Sorry, Susan. We also placed a notice for a part-time assistant on our webpage, on MTT webpage, on 2 Facebook pages, on the bulletin board at the front door, at the senior center. And I also made inquiries at the banks that we use because obviously cash handling and customer service experience is very helpful in our position. So, in mid-July, I hired a part-time fill-in person, hoping that we could not only critique the level of understanding, and she could help, then she could learn our procedures with the discretion that and customer service that we need in our office setting. So, during the time that Danielle's been with us, Kim and I have both observed her willingness to learn, her courteous way with our residents, her ability to be discreet, and how we often deal with sensitive information. She's right there with us. I think that she would be a good fit for our office, and I'm looking forward to her being part of a winning team. So, it is my recommendation to the board that we hire Danielle Wilcock, and her status would be changed from part-time fill-in to part-time eligible administrative assistant to the treasurer beginning immediately.
Would you like to make the motion that's presented?
I would.
I'll
Yeah.
second.
Thank you. Yay, you can't back out now. We can unhandcuff her.
Okay, are there any questions on this motion or the presentation? Yes.
Is this what they had, is this the position that the treasurer's office had before? So it's all accounted for in the budget? Okay.
Yes.
That's all I want to make sure. That's what I figured.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to answer a question.
Are there any other questions from the board? All right, I have a motion by Treasurer Darnell, seconded by Trustee Broughton, to hire Danielle Wilcock as part-time eligible administrative assistant to the treasurer, starting immediately, for up to an average of 32 hours a week at the starting hourly pay rate of $12.80.
And she's here if you want to say hi.
And do you want to stand up, Danielle, just so We can.
Not really.
It
for
is
you.
Daniel.
Don't do
This
it.
is Danielle.
Or we can see
Just
her.
wave.
We actually met the other day.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? We'll do a roll call, please.
Allen is absent with notice. Broughton.
Yes.
Burnell.
Yes.
De Palma.
Yes.
Cordella.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Welcome on board.
See, we told her she had to do a speech, but
Oh.
but we told her she didn't.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Recreation Land Water Conservation Fund resolution. The previous board, before we had three new trustees, adopted the same resolution as this. So, the DNR is requiring us to adopt the same identical resolution with the current board. So, or from the current board, yes.
I have a question.
It should say local, not located match.
Which one are we reading first?
This
Okay.
resolution, right?
I'm sorry.
Where's the
resolution.
correction?
The
Sherry was
resolution.
showing me the other one, so I thought
Yes.
it was on the other
There's
one.
a typo. It says
Okay,
located. It should say
fourth paragraph.
local.
Okay,
Local
gotcha.
match.
Located match, and it should be local match?
Yes.
Okay, I found it.
The resolution, whereas the Charter Township, I'll read it, and then hopefully we'll discuss it from there or vote to approve it. Whereas the Charter Township Board of Trustees supports the submission of an application titled Brandon Township Community Park Development to the Land and Water Conservation Fund for development of 4 ADA-compliant ball fields and a universally designed pathway and parking area for 100 spaces located at the Brandon Township Community Park. And whereas the proposed application is supported by the community's 5-year approved Parks and Recreation Plan, and whereas the Charter Township of Brandon has made a financial commitment to the project in the amount of $150,000 matching funds in cash and or force account, and whereas if the grant is awarded, the applicant commits its local match donated from the following sources. The Salt Tower funds, $150,000, for a total of $150,000 donation. Whereas the Charter Township of Brandon has made an additional financial commitment to cover the project's cost exceeding $300,000, estimated to be $109,500 from cell tower funds. And now therefore be it resolved that the Charter Township of Brandon trustees hereby authorizes submission of the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application for $300,000 and further resolves to make available a local match through financial commitment and donation of $150,000, 50% of a total of $300,000 project cost during the 2017-2018 fiscal year. And anyways, we've already been awarded this grant, so we're in the process of trying to see if we want to go through with the grant. If we choose not to go through with the grant, they'll probably not ever give us another grant again.
So we have to do a resolution for, I just want to make sure I understand this. This was the one we were awarded, you just said, correct? And we did this resolution before, but because now it's a new year, we have to do the resolution.
We have a new board.
New board.
New board.
New board. They want the current board
To approve the resolution. Okay.
to approve the resolution.
Just wanted to make sure I understood, because it still said resolution 262-16. Because it was a resolution for 16, or is this going to be a new resolution? Because I thought our resolution's numbered.
We'll
and then
have
a
to let
year.
the clerk's office get that figured out.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is for work that's already been started, right? For the parking lot,
Not,
parking spaces?
not officially.
Okay.
No. We've done grubbing,
Oh, okay, all right. I knew something had been
which
started out there.
was part of it.
Okay.
Well, the grubbing was, because we could, the grubbing isn't going to be, that was paid for on our, oh, no, it's not on our
It's
side.
part of our 109.
9 over, okay.
500.
I'll make that motion, Kathy.
Okay,
I'll support you, Scott.
all right.
Okay.
And then we have discussion. And then we have discussion.
Right?
Okay.
Sure.
I'm supposed to support first, right, before, right? Supporting was correct, okay.
Support's good.
Okay, just to make sure I.
Did you have any comment?
Yes, because I was looking at this one that goes with this one, and this one said 2006. Is that correct, or is it supposed to be 2016? I just want to make sure everything was right before we start signing stuff. Because I thought this was the 5-year plan.
Well, this is based on the 2006 master plan for Phase 2. It's HRC estimate.
It wasn't phase 2
It's
done.
based on the master plan, when they did the master plan back in 2006.
Okay, so that is a correct
Right.
time. All right. So, then I looked at the stuff that Stuart
We're
sent
gonna do
us.
this next.
Is that part of this?
No,
So once
this
we
is-
okay this, is it too late? That's my question. Because this is the same as this, is it not?
This is the
It's
resolution.
for the same project.
Correct.
Yes.
So once we okay the project, and once we okay this, it's too late to say, wait a minute, what about this? Yes or no? That's all I need.
I would think not, because this is a resolution that we're, I'm sorry.
It's not too late to ask questions on this one, but I don't think we're gonna be able to change the agreement because it's kind of a standard agreement by the DNR, but this is something we're gonna be discussing as our next item.
But I think if she has to ask all questions now before we vote on the first one, we're gonna have to talk about it anyways. Let's just answer the questions now, and then there won't be an issue.
Well, my thought is that this is a resolution saying that we were supporting to apply for the grant. This
Apply
is
for
what
the
we did
grant.
last year at
Right.
this time. We didn't even know what the agreement would look like. So
Right.
to me, this is kind of just going back to what we agreed to last year to apply for the grant. Then we received the grant all of a sudden 2 minutes later, and then we talk about the agreement. So to me, I don't think the
They're two
resolution.
separate
They're two separate
okay.
things.
All
The
right.
resolution means that we applied for the grant, and then this is now we've received the grant, we've been awarded it, our questions on the agreement.
Okay,
That's
gotcha.
my take. They just want this redone with the 3 new people.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. So this is really a done deal.
This we've done before with a different board.
Okay.
So their requirement is that the current board, and I don't remember how you voted last time.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on the resolution? All right, I have a motion by trustee Broughton, supported by trustee DePalma, to adopt the resolution titled 26216 of authorization local unit of government match as presented. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? Okay, roll call, please.
Broughton,
Yes.
Surno,
No?
DePalma,
Yes.
Cordella,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Allen is absent with notice, Thurman.
Yes, motion carries 5-1. All right, now, item C is the Land and Water Conservation Fund agreement. So the township has been awarded this grant, and they're asking us to enter into an agreement with them, the Land and Water Conservation Fund Development Project Agreement. And in the, in your packet, you were given a lot of information that the Parks and Rec Director put in for you. He's not here tonight because he's on vacation. The agreement was submitted to the township attorney. Did I copy everybody on his response to this? So he has looked it over, and he's pretty much said that it's a standard agreement and that we have to realize that we do have to abide by everything in the grant if we approve the agreement. So what were your questions?
My first question was, on page 1 of 17, number 3, the time period allowed for the project completion. Okay, so is that saying that we don't get the 150,000 until it's complete?
No, if you read, I'm not sure if it's in here, but the way they do it is once we spend so much percentage, then we can ask for matching of that amount. So I think it's like 4 different times we can submit for funding.
All right, and they're at the max giving us 150.
Yes.
And we're gonna give them 259. Well, the project is gonna cost.
That's how much we're spending.
Gotcha. And the extra is coming out of cell tower funds?
Yes.
Okay. And on page 2, where it says the department shall conduct an audit of its project's financial records upon the approval of the final reimbursement request, do we have engineering staff to do that? Is that part of our engineering cost?
I'm sorry, which letter are you reading? Because I'm trying to follow you.
3.
It's number 3.
7B3. An audit of the project's financial records. The department is
staff.
the DNR.
That's, yes,
The DNR
department.
The
is
DNR engineering staff, so is that an extra charge, or is that included in?
No.
No, it is not included, or no, it is not extra?
It's not an extra charge.
Gotcha.
The DNR is gonna audit the project's financial
State of
records.
Michigan.
It says,
Isn't the department? the
yes, it
DNR?
says right here, State of Michigan is called Department elsewhere in this, at the very first
Right.
paragraph, and it says that Brandon Township we are called the grantee
Right,
throughout the agreement.
but this is my question. It was the request by the department engineering staff. They're requesting it. Their engineering staff is requesting it. Who's doing it?
Well, it says right here, the department shall conduct an audit, so that means the DNR
Us,
shall.
we're the department.
No, we're not the
No,
department.
The DNR is the.
Oh, they're the
State of
department,
Michigan. So
okay.
the state of Michigan shall conduct an audit on the project's final records upon approval of the final reimbursement by the state of Michigan engineering staff. The state of Michigan may issue an audit report with no deductions or may find some costs ineligible for reimbursement, so that.
They're doing it, not us.
Right.
We have to
Gotcha.
provide them the info.
Okay. All right, now,
These are perfect questions to ask ahead of time, especially.
well, he wasn't here.
Yeah.
Do we have any utility lines to bury?
I asked that of Fred
Yeah.
at our meeting, he said no.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. All right.
Does anyone else have any other questions or have any questions on the agreement? We're looking for someone to make a motion to approve the Land and Water Conservation Fund Development Project Agreement as presented and allow the supervisor to sign the document. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Someone like to second that motion?
Where's the motion? Is it
On the front
page?
down
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. Okay,
But-
all right.
But we have to add, this
Right.
was supposed to go down here.
Okay, all right.
What do we have to add to the motion?
And allow the supervisor to sign the
Oh,
document.
gotcha.
This part goes down here.
Yes, I remember you saying that.
Okay.
We've been working very hard to get this grant. Would someone like to second the motion?
I will second the motion.
All right, thank you.
Supervisor Thurman, I apologize. Was that allowing the supervisor to sign is after as presented and allowing?
I'll reread it for you, okay? The motion is to approve the Land Water Conservation Fund Development Project Agreement as presented and allow the supervisor to sign the document.
Thank you.
And the reason for that is it only has one spot for a signature, and our policy says that contracts are signed by both the clerk and the supervisor. So we're just designating that. But, yeah, how long have we worked on this, Dana, trying to get this grant? A long time.
And we need to finish the park. That's what we started, let's finish it for the community. And the money's there.
Is there any other discussion on this agreement? Okay, let's do a roll call, please.
Darno,
No.
De Palma,
Yes.
Cordella,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Allen is absent with notice, Broughton,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes, motion carries 5-1. And we can move on to cash receipting. Would someone like to make the suggested motion?
I'd like to make the motion to move cash receipting from the Recreation Department to the Treasurer's Office beginning August 14th, 2017. I'm not sure why that date was picked, but that's what's written, so.
All right, would someone like to second this motion?
I'll second.
You gonna second? Okay. All right, is there discussion on this motion?
Yes, Kathy, somewhere in here it was referenced that there were 2 trustees that had kind of wanted this. I was one of them originally. But after speaking with the Treasury Department and also speaking with Fred and his group during our last Parks and Rec subcommittee meeting, I've kind of removed my interest in this moving forward. It's not going to change our material weakness rating, and until we make all changes, I'm removing my support for that, even though I was one of the original ones that wanted it.
Did anybody else have anything to say on this one?
I just wanted to say that, yes, it doesn't change our material weakness, but we are listening to our auditor, who we entrust to do our financial statements, and if he says we should do something for our material weakness, we should follow our auditor, and that's why I would like to do the best that we can to do what our auditor asks for. That's what we pay him to do. So, that is why I have been, it might not totally fix it, because the other issue is that, what it is that the building department goes to the treasurer to pay, the recreation department pays at the recreation. It's all in the same building, so why can't you walk around the corner? The fire department pays at the fire department, it's a different building. The police station's a different building. The senior center, if they collect funds, is a different building. But I was trying to keep what's in our office there, so that's why it won't fix the material weakness. And yes, you have to walk around the corner. In county buildings, you have to walk a few flights of stairs. So I'd like to fix what we can.
Well, as a treasurer, I can say that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The people come to the rec department, and they would have to make 3 trips instead of 1, and they complain about that, and I get to hear that complaint too. Yay! So I think that they haven't had a problem. They bring the reports to the treasurer's office on a daily basis, just like the building department does. We've not had a problem. The people are a little more satisfied. Their kids aren't running through the kids aren't running through the building, and it's a lot easier for us to just do it at the end of the day. So we've had absolutely no problem, and I don't see a need to change it.
Okay. Does someone else have any comments down here?
I'm gonna go with the expertise of the treasurer. I agree it doesn't solve all the problems, and I would like to see some of these shortcomings fixed, but again, I'm gonna go with the expertise of the treasurer, and if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay. Krista, do you have anything to say on this item?
No.
Okay. I just want, I witness people up at the rec window, and usually it's people with kids. So at the building department, they're not sending kids down to wait for the treasurer, and it would be an inconvenience for those families to have to do that, and I think in the best interest of serving the public that I'm voting no on this one.
Can I make
Yes.
another comment?
Yes, you can.
I have kids. I've paid at the rec department. I'd have no problem taking them to the other department. I'm a CPA, so I try to follow what the CPAs say to do. So it's part of our internal controls, and you hear about that all the time when I'm at the governmental accounting conferences and everything else that I attend. So that's why I feel that we should follow what our CPA says. So I understand it's more convenient for, and you said they give the reports like the building department does, but you've collected the building department's money, though. You're supposed to talk to the chair. So the treasurer has collected the building department's money. It's hard after how many years of doing it the other way. And you didn't give us a warning. Anyways, so I just feel that, so I just want people to realize, I know it's not gonna pass, it sounds like, but I'm not trying to make it more difficult on the residents. I'm just trying to follow, like you wanna follow Robert's rules, I want to follow the rules of the CPA and that we put in our trusted advisor.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone else have a second comment?
They're just suggestions.
And we used to do it that way too. It's not suggestions that causes us to have a material weakness.
Okay.
That's all.
Any other discussion on this? All right, we have a motion by Trustee DePalma, and it's supported by Trustee Cordella to move cash receipting from the Recreation Department to the Treasurer's Office beginning August 14th, 2017. And since there's no further discussion, we will do a roll call, please.
DePalma,
Yes.
Cordella,
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Marshall,
No.
Allen is absent with notice. Broughton,
No.
Darnall,
No.
Thurman.
No. So motion fails 2-4. And next is the SEMCOG membership. All right, Amy Melmer from SEMCOG gave a presentation to the Brandon Township Board of Trustees on July 10th, 2017. She and her colleague pointed out the benefits of being a SEMCOG member. She's giving us the top 5 reasons. Magnifying your voice, network and learn from others, regional plan development, data analysis, technical assistance. The township used to be a member of SEMCOG, and in recent years, due to budgetary restraints, we've not been a member, but they're asking that we be a member again. And I know the clerk was in favor of being a member, and if the board's not ready to vote on this, maybe we want to wait until the clerk is available to get some
Depending on the results of the
input.
vote, you
Yes,
want to decide.
I don't know.
I don't think so, Kathy.
That was clever. That was good.
How long ago, Kathy, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Or do we need to do
No,
the?
we can
okay.
do discussion.
How long ago did we used to belong to SEMCOG? I have a couple questions.
That I didn't find out the exact year.
Okay.
I talked to Karen MacArthur, who used to be the work of the clerk's office and do the
Okay.
bookkeeping.
Because I was gonna say it was before my time on the board, I know that.
It was before my time as well.
My second question is, who contacted SEMCOG? Did they come to us or did we go looking for them because of the trails?
They came to one of my supervisors' meetings
Okay.
and reached out at that point.
Did they
From
do
there.
that because of us potentially having an iron bile
No.
trail? Was this all about the trails is what
No.
I'm trying to find
No,
out?
it was more on traffic study. They do a lot of traffic studies. They're a big resource for townships, and we get information from them.
But we can get that information if we
If we are
don't.
not members.
We can get
Some of
information
it,
if we're not
yeah.
members, yes. I asked that
But
last
there's
time.
additional help that they would give us if we were members.
Like
and
what?
That's what the clerk would be able to tell you.
I don't think that's gonna change my opinion. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion on this end?
In my prior life, I had dealings with SEMCOG, and although I don't agree with everything that they purport to support, they do provide benefits. I used to get a lot of studies traffic studies in particular, from them, and I found their information really useful. The only other resource we had at the time was AAA, and I don't believe AAA does that anymore. So SEMCOG would be advantageous. I'm not sure how directly advantageous it would be for us. I guess the lieutenant's already gone.
No, he's here still.
Is he? It might be more advantageous to the sheriff's department on getting traffic survey information.
But I think we can.
But
I'm
they,
sorry.
but they
They
do,
probably
but they
get
do.
it
pro-
through the county. Who
Yeah,
gets it from
yeah,
SEMCOG?
But they do provide services.
Yeah.
I know they used to do traffic counting, but we also get our traffic counting through the sheriff's department, so, or through the road commission.
I would think what trustee Marshall is talking about would be included even if we don't belong. What he's saying he has benefited from.
The
Isn't that part of it? Yeah.
traffic studies, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
But I still don't remember what the clerk said. There was another benefit that she
Well, this kind
was
of,
eager for, and I can't speak on her behalf, so I don't know if, I know there is some,
I'd be willing to table this until
till she's here.
clerk's here. Yeah, if she has,
So
if she
she
has
can
something more
put her
to,
input in.
yeah. If she has something really pressing that she wants to discuss, I don't have a problem with waiting. It's not gonna break us by, if we pay it now or pay it later, or don't pay it at all.
Right. Are you making a motion to postpone this and?
I will do
till
that.
the-
I will do that, yes. That sounds like an excellent idea.
I'll second that.
I'm guessing that'll be the next regular meeting.
Yep, until the next regular meeting. Okay. Is there any discussion on postponing this item? I have a,
she didn't tell you why?
she did, but I can't remember all the particulars,
she
and
send
she
you an
was.
email?
No, she was planning on being here, but she became ill, so.
But it was gonna be worth $1,500 to her.
She was, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to look at, the benefits that they
Right.
provide. They provide a magnify your voice. I'm not sure what we need our voice magnified for. Network and learn from others. We do networking and learning, I heard was only through MTA. And then regional plan development, I'm not sure what we need to develop. Data analysis is what I think they said you can still get, like the Park Finder, because I did specifically ask that. And the road safety, Lieutenant Glover's back in here, if I could ask him a question.
Mr. Lieutenant Glover, could you come up to the microphone, please?
Yes.
Can
Go ahead.
I
Yes.
ask him if he needs road safety from SEMCOG, or does he get it through his own county? That might get it through SEMCOG anyways, where they get it from.
I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
I'm not aware of us getting anything through SEMCOG. Usually it goes through the road commission or through MDOT. That's where most of that comes from.
But you get road safety. He gets. Sorry.
You may
Does
have
he
a
get-
conversation with.
Thank you.
There you go.
Ask him
You do get
directly.
road safety statistics, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said, they come through MDOT or the road commission.
But you still get 'em.
Primarily the road commission.
But you still get them.
Yes.
Whatever you need, you probably would get, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know where the road commission and MDOT gets their statistics?
I do not.
They may-
As far as, I mean, MDOT, the encounters that we have, when they do their own studies, and so does the road commission, as we know with what's going on with the speed limits on the back roads. And the speed limits are based on, a lot of times, an MSP investigation on those, and then that information's relayed on to the road commission.
Did you have any other questions?
Thank you. No, that was it for him. And then the last one they say is technical assistance, which would be
Thank
more
you.
about walking, biking, and driving safely. And it does specifically mention the Iron Bell Trail, which I really don't want to spend any money on the Iron Bell Trail until we determine if we're going to have a trail, because I don't want to waste township funds. So
That's our next item to discuss.
I'm not for postponing.
All right, is there any other discussion on postponing? All right, I have a motion by trustee Marshall, seconded by trustee Cordella, to postpone this item until the next regular meeting. And if there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Wait a second. Can we,
This is to postpone. To postpone, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
If those that do not want it postponed signify by saying nay.
Aye.
Nay.
nay. Okay.
Trustee Cordella, I didn't hear you one way or the other. You said aye?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries 4-2. So that will be postponed until our next regular meeting. Next, we have the engineering for additional Iron Bell Trail segment. I would like to invite Dwight Woodbridge up to the podium for this, as the project manager of the Trail Subcommittee. What we're trying to do is get all of the questions answered that are coming in. And this request for a study on this particular route came through Dwight. I don't know if there were other members of the subcommittee that were also in favor of having that done, but the reasoning for it was there were questions by our board members, I believe, that had a direct bearing on routing. Is that correct?
Correct. The specific question is from several of the board members, when you compiled it, was exact costs on routes. That route had been suggested as an alternate to the four that exist. And since request was for specific costs, you needed to have costs on that route, so that's where that proposal came from.
So in order for the trail subcommittee to do their job appropriately, I contacted HRC, who said they would be able to work something up. It wouldn't be as involved, quite as involved as the estimate on the other routes, but it would be in the ballpark, so we would have something to give the board as far as costs, because if you're asking for costs, we can't come up with costs ourselves.
As a board member, I still haven't seen, I've seen the numbers, we've seen 4 numbers, routes A through D. I haven't seen any backup for that at all, and I've mentioned this before. I'd like to see, where do these numbers come from? Where do
I can send that to you. We obtained that today, the breakdown, so I can send that to you.
Kathy, I'd
Send it
also
to
like
all
to,
of us, please.
I'd also like to put out there, there's been a lot of narrative about whether or not it was right or wrong for me to be voting on a specific route, and I think that only part of the story has only been released, and everyone needs to know the whole story. And it's not the paper's fault, because I never bothered correcting the paper, but everyone in here should know that I'm also on Route B and on Route D. So it wasn't that I was trying to get my house off the trail. In fact, I personally am okay with it going in front of my home. I sat down and figured out today, because I knew I was going to say this tonight, I've logged at least 2,000 miles on and around Granger Road walking. It's good for me, but what I won't do is force this on another group of homeowners if they don't want it. But that needs to be made clear that I'm still on 2 of these other routes. I didn't stop anything from happening. I stopped a safety issue from becoming a worse issue. So anyways, I'm done.
Madam Chair, yes.
Yes.
I was just letting her finish writing, actually, so since Scott went, then I'll go. I was one of the trustees that did ask for a cost analysis of all of the costs to this. Number one, What is the cost of each trail? What is the maintenance of each trail? What is the insurance? What is the cost down the line for when you get a point like in Dryden, they need to come up with $300,000 to fix the drainage issues on a trail. So I was one that asked to know these costs, but I was also told by you, trusted or Supervisor Thurman, that that this trail subcommittee wasn't going to do a trail study, that this was just to gather information in general. So I don't want to spend $1,500 on another study that then I'm not still going to get everything, because this is just going to give me a piece of, okay, now what would it cost for the building of this other route? It's not going to tell me, are you going to give me then maintenance costs on each of the routes and if something goes wrong, and insurance and police and all that stuff, because until I know where this funding is going to come from. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love a trail. I pack my kids up and we have to go somewhere, and even if this trail comes in, I still have to do that. And so, but I think it'd be great for the people to have a trail, but being CPA, like I said, I need to figure out the finances first. But I don't want to spend the money on this if it's not really going to give me all the answers. If it's just going to give me what the cost is and I'm still not going to get the rest of those detailed answers, I still wouldn't be able to go forward until I know where's the funding going to come from and what all those other costs are. Because that is my major issue, is we don't have the funding from it that I see. So that's where my concern is. I mean, I do want to know what the cost is to everything, but I don't think this is going to still solve that problem.
So you're saying you want to know answers to questions, but you're saying we're not going to be able to give you the answers?
Well, you're saying this is just going to give me partial of the answers. I'm asking, is it going to give me all those answers? Is it going to give me maintenance costs? Is it going to give me insurance costs? Is it going to give me all of that on that trail? Because you told me earlier we weren't doing, I have the emails, I can pull it. You weren't doing specific things on a trail. Now you're asking to spend $1,500 for a specific trail. But you told me you weren't going to do that.
No, originally I thought we were going to do like generic trail first, but then Kristen Wiltfang came and gave us this deadline where we had to make a decision, because I thought originally what we would do is do like a generic trail that was off the road, and then a generic trail that was not off the road, and so you had two different types. And then we'd come back and see if there was interest, and then go back to the committee if there was still interest and get more specific. But because we are now under a timeline, it seems as though the board is looking for more specific answers to questions than just generic answers.
Right, because I know that at the last meeting you were asking us to pick a trail, basically, in one of our new businesses. You kept saying, do you guys want to pick a trail? Do you want to pick a trail? And I said, I'm not.
Nobody wanted to pick.
Correct, because I'm for trails, but I can't put something in place unless I know what the cost is. It's just like the gentleman said earlier, you don't buy a house, you don't buy a car until you know what the cost is. So I can say I'm for trails, but I can't say, vote, yes, we're going to have a trail, but then not told what the cost is. So I wanted the specific, and you never told me that you guys were changing to do the specifics. So that's where I had a problem spending money if we weren't going to do specifics.
And maybe Dwight can answer your question a little better as far as how specific you think the committee is going to be able to come up with answers.
To answer an October 1 deadline, you probably will not be able to have accurate, exact costs on any of the trails. So it's going to be risk-reward for the board to decide at that time trails. And there's a definite difference between what Oakland County is requesting, Kristen, is just a yes/no, and what the board, your board, wants to decide in terms of deciding whether they do a trail or not. And since at the July meeting, the additional route was added, being M15 and Seymour Lake, that's the rationale behind an engineering study to determine what, quote, costs would be.
And just so everyone knows, this is just preliminary engineering. If a route goes through, we have to do, there's more engineering involved before the trail can be built.
Right, but if we vote on, by October 1st, that we are going to do a trail, we're committing to the state that we're going to do a trail, and we have no clue what the total funding's going to be.
That's why we're adding another route, because you can't come up with funding estimates without putting them on different routes.
Okay, Kathy, I have a question.
Sure.
On this, HRC is saying they propose to drive the route, review the available information, such as a wetland map, and create an estimate of cost ballpark. We have how many engineers on the subcommittee? Can't they do the same thing?
Dwight, you're an engineer, aren't you?
Not one that would do cost estimating on a trail.
Do we have any resources like that on our subcommittee?
No, there was one gentleman that put in his application that did do trails, and I can't remember off the top what his name was.
Kathy, I think.
Was there, Chris, do you remember who that was?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who that was, but yeah, there was a gentleman that said he was familiar with the cost, because he owned a construction company. You know, was that the guy you're talking about? Or was there a guy who owned a construction company and there was another guy that knew
He
about it?
actually worked for the DNR and actually did trails.
Oh, that
as-
was
that's
the
his livelihood.
alderman, what's his name that lives in the village here?
Ron Sutton.
No.
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 No, what's his name? You know, the older man, the oldest man that was here.
The older man.
Ron
Ron
Sutton was,
Was he?
but I don't know, was this someone that wanted to be on the
Yes, he was-
committee?
Yes, he was in the.
He was the one that was in Alaska for years. He did all kinds of trails. He's done like 2,000 miles worth of trails in his lifetime.
Courtney, do you know who it was?
Rick McAvinci.
Oh,
Yeah,
Rick
there
Mack-
it is. Yeah, that's Rick, yeah.
Rick.
Yeah.
Thank you,
yeah,
Courtney.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Rick.
He
And
would,
Rick-
he would be the person that would have the most expertise to provide that information.
But
Of the group here.
Rick McAvinci, I don't believe is an engineer.
I don't know what his background
Yeah,
is, but.
He's
I'm not
done-
sure if he was,
No.
but he's got several degrees, but that's not the point. The point is he has done a lot of trails in his lifetime.
Right.
That was what I got from him. I mean, like 2,000 miles worth of trails. I guess he put in a huge trail network in
Okay.
Alaska while he was there.
But I don't believe the majority of those trails had to meet AASHTO standards either.
That's might be true. I don't know.
Because I remember him talking about getting Boy Scouts to build bridges and
Oh, well, I don't
that
remember
type
that.
of thing. And
That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
so I don't.
That's not, that's not
I
something
don't
we wanna
really
do.
think we have anyone that would be able to give the same type of estimate.
I think we need to compare apples with apples anyways, if we're looking at the numbers. I don't have any problem if the trail subcommittee thinks that this will help them come to a decision. I'm okay to move forward with it.
Have we found out if the Iron Bell or whoever we need to give this answer to by October 1st, are they the ones that gave us the 4 trail choices? And if we say, hey, we have this other trail idea, are they even going to accept it? I mean, do they have to have approval of which trail we pick too?
That would have to come up very soon after, if our answer was yes, we want a trail, they would want to know that very soon. So it's kind of forcing us to.
Right, but could they say no to which one we pick? Would they say no to which one we pick? Would they say no to this one and then the $1,500 is wasted?
I don't believe they would. Jen,
'Cause
do you
that one
want
didn't
to
come in our-
step up to the podium? Jen is also on our committee. And
If I remember correctly, Kristen said it needs to meet Oxford where their route starts, and it needs to end in Goodrich. They didn't really specify what that route would look like. It just needs to get to Goodrich because the state they've committed the funds and the trust monies and all of that's already been committed to that Goodrich location. So it just needs to meet where Oxford ends and connect there and get up there. How they get there, where they get there, she wasn't, that's up to the board.
If it goes
And
through
I
Brandon
know
Township.
that.
If it goes through Brandon.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I know that when it gets to Groveland Township and Goodrich, it's going to go along M15.
Well, has Groveland Township even agreed to it? So how does it get from us to Goodrich? Because I didn't think Groveland Township agreed to it.
They haven't officially
Stated either way. Okay.
Yeah, but they've been in on meetings with the M15 Heritage Route. So they're aware of what the recommendation is through. It's kind of like Ortonville. If we bring it up M15, they've got to get it to Groveland Township, and then Groveland takes it their plate, their section.
If I may.
Yes.
Based on the letter from HRC, it appears that if they do this study, it will not even be as specific as the previous studies done. Right? My problem is I was underwhelmed by the previous studies and their lack of specifics. So if we're gonna spend $1,500, it's not even contain the specifics we need that we haven't gotten on previous studies, why spend the money?
Well, the previous studies did have specifics, you just hadn't seen them. And so.
Well, why haven't I seen them? For instance, this is one of the points I've made before. When I looked at the maps that detailed the routes, the maps went down the road.
I know, and
it doesn't say if it's on the north side of the road, the south side of the road, east side, so how can you make a determination of cost if it's not even giving you specifics of where the trail's actually gonna be? And now they're saying this study would be even less specific. It's like, well, what's the purpose?
I agree with you, Bob. I've been asking HRC which side of the road they looked at, because they do have specifics as to how much tree removal is gonna cost and how much going across wetlands is gonna cost, and bridges, and so they had to have looked at one side or the other.
They didn't provide us with that
But they're
information.
not, yeah, exactly.
So Madam Supervisor, if this is just a ballpark type range, is it even worth it to be able to get our answers? I just don't even know if our answers can be received enough for the board to be able to make and I'm not trying to speak for board members. Are we even gonna be able to get enough answers if everybody wants these answers before we make a decision? I mean, if we spend the $1,500 or we don't, I mean, even if we don't spend it, are you really truly going to get the answers that the board is asking for to be able to make a decision? And I don't wanna spend $1,500 if that's not gonna happen anyways.
Well, I think that's what you said earlier, is that you don't think that we're gonna get the information for you anyways to make a decision.
It doesn't
But
seem like you're
asking for
able.
specifics.
Right,
So,
but I
so
don't-
you've got us in the middle, like, what do you want?
Well, will you be able to get the answers in time?
Well, that's what the committee is gonna try to do. And the committee's been working very hard. Dwight in particular has got all these spreadsheets going of all the questions, and at our next meeting, we're gonna be divvying up, finding the answers.
Divvying up the questions
The
to find the
questions,
answers.
yes.
No, Paul was.
So, I don't, you're on the subcommittee,
Mm-hmm.
but we should be asking questions of you. Come on up
I
to
have
the
a question
podium.
for you, Paul. Do you have any
There you
questions?
go.
I think we're getting confused.
Okay.
I think we're trying to, you guys want to nail down the cost, but the real question is, you guys need to decide, like, I mean, you got Enbridge issues, you got like sewer issues, you're gonna have people that are gonna sue you guys. I mean, they're gonna sue. I mean, I know 3 routes, at least 10 people on any routes are gonna sue. If they come down here, we're suing. Now, you as a board have to decide if you can live with those type of decisions and those types of action. From what I can see, our framework in Brandon Township does not really support a trail. If we had a regular 30-foot wide railroad bed, you wouldn't have pipelines, and you wouldn't have phone lines, and you wouldn't have telephone poles to deal with. You wouldn't have people's yards. You wouldn't have dogs running around. You wouldn't have chickens. All those kind of things. You guys, we can't, as a subcommittee, we can't give you those answers. You have to say, when people start coming, I don't know who's going to be in charge of the trail, but they are going to get bombarded. Like, for example, let's say you put a trail in, and it's on Route A, and it rains. We have a major rainstorm, and the trail washes out. Who's going to ride the route to see where the washouts are? You're going to have liabilities issues if nobody does that, right? These are things that you all have to decide if you say yes to a trail. Forget the money issue. Forget how much it's going to cost. You have to decide if you guys can live with that stuff, or whoever is in charge of that. Because those are the major things that we're really looking at. Yeah, cost is an issue, and the maintenance is an issue. I mean, I mean, did anybody check my math? I mean, we're really going to go with the engineering firm?
Paul, the trail subcommittee is the body that's going to be investigating all this, so
Right.
that the board can make a decision.
Right, but when
So
but
all
when the
those things you brought up, hopefully Dwight has those, and
right, but when the subcommittee's gone and I'm sitting at home, I'm not going to be the one getting all the bombardment. I can tell you, you'll be getting a lot of it.
Right.
You'll be getting a lot of
So,
calls.
do you think that getting an engineering cost on the Seymour Lake to M15 route is going to help the subcommittee?
I do not.
You don't think it will help
No.
the subcommittee?
Because as we learned from the other surveys, those figures, I mean, just on the bridge, I mean, how can it, you're looking at 13 million on my route. I'm seriously, what did they do? I looked at those wetland maps, and you take a little string and you lay it on that, and plus I drove it and I measured it, and she gave us a $600 figure for a linear foot, right? So it's 13 million just for a walk. How do you go from 5 to 13? That took me like 5 minutes. And we're gonna pay somebody $1,500 to do exactly what are they gonna give us? If they're gonna give us less information than the previous survey, why waste the money? And I still feel that you have to pick a route and drill down on that route to find out the cost, because it can't cost like 4 times as much. We can't
How do we know if the Seymour Lake to M15 route costs 4 times as much if we don't?
Oh, I don't know what the cost is, but I'm
engineering?
sure there's, do you think it's gonna be cheaper than any of the other routes?
We don't know.
But I guess how did that become the route?
Well, that's a route that had been brought up by several people.
But I guess my question is that the route? Is that the route we're gonna? Because if that's the route, then go right ahead and do the engineering survey on it. If that's going to be the route,
Well,
or are we gonna? Or what's going to happen is then you're going to get pushed back on that route, and then you're going to try to find a different route, and we're just going to keep going route to route to route to try to find out where the least
Between
push
now and October.
yes.
Now, see, the October deadline, I don't feel bad because you guys have had 3 years. This subcommittee should have been formed 3 years ago, and we would have never been under this pressure. Now, what I'm hoping you guys will do, if we don't provide you with the right information or enough information, please don't just say, let's do this, and we dump this on the public like 4 times as much. You're saying 5, and then it's costing 15. You are going to have some seriously angry people. So let's just make sure, if you don't have the information, please just don't say, well, let's go on, we'll figure it out as we go. No, we need to figure it out and then decide.
So the question is, do
Go
we
ahead.
need this?
I say we do
engineering
not need the
study
survey. I
to
say we
get
do
the
not need that.
information, because apparently,
Well,
and maybe what we need to do then is let the subcommittee decide how important an engineering study would be.
Madam Supervisor?
Yes.
What I think I'm hearing from Paul, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we spend the 1,500, it's gonna give us a ballpark on this other trail route. But even if we do that, there's still gonna be enough other issues that we might not have answers to, or we might not like the answers, or some might like the answers, and there'll be enough other stuff that we'll be able to vote, is what I think he's saying, without having
Right, I'm
to
saying
get
the
this.
finance is one thing, but
Oh, there's a lot
but
more
there's-
to it. I
but
mean,
you
my
have to have the
questions
buy-in from the
continue.
people. We have to make sure, and when we start making decisions, like, that's what I was kind of saying, like with the right-of-way and all that, I get that. I get that they have the right-of-way, but you have to realize there's stuff in the right-of-way. I don't care if it's illegal or whatever. It's really hard to go there and just start ripping people's trees and
Well-
walls and if you guys can live with that, if you guys are all okay with that, that needs to be part of the decision.
I mean, we could come up with our own ballpark figure by just taking the engineering that's been done, average it per mile, and then drive and find
Well,
out.
it depends,
how
it will
many miles
depend on
it is.
how
I don't
much,
know.
it will depend on how many.
Well, you got to
boardwalks,
look at, you have to
stuff
look
like
at the
that.
boardwalks, you got to look at retaining walls, there's
Yeah.
all kinds of things that are going to change that per mile. I mean,
Well-
one mile might cost you 10 million, another might cost you,
Well, then we should get the engineering.
Well,
well,
what about that book? That whatever.
AASHTO standards.
Yeah.
Well, that's why the engineer would be doing the ballpark according to the
But if we
AASHTO
could look,
standards.
but we can buy that book for $150, correct?
yes,
We're not
that is correct.
engineers to know how much it costs to put in a boardwalk, or how much it costs.
Well, my
to
my
do
point
a
back
bridge.
when Route C got voted to be removed, I voted no to remove Route C because I didn't want to take away anything until all the answers were done. But I had said, once you remove Route C, another route's going to come in and complain, and that was Route A. And then I know then, as soon as that came in, that brought in the Seymour Lake route, and people weren't happy. And so if we take away those two now, B's coming and D's coming, there's going to be somebody on every route. So you are going to have those issues that he mentioned. And so
So,
if you don't want to do that
I
to your
guess why-
public, then the cost doesn't matter.
Why would we do a cost analysis on the Seymour Lake route if we're not even sure that's gonna be the route? We already have numbers from other routes. What are they gonna do different on this route that they actually said they're gonna do less on the Seymour Lake route than the other route? So what are we accomplishing by doing that? And that might not
Kathy,
even
I-
be the route.
Okay, let's
I-
have Dwight
good?
come back
Okay.
up. Yeah, thank you, Paul.
I think what you'll be able to get, if it's wanted, on this new route, is basically the ability to be able to band that within the 4 estimates you already have. And it'll basically line up A, B, C, D, E in pecking order from most expensive to least expensive. And you'll, with reasonable accuracy, be able to place it in amongst those routes.
But you're still.
For more detail than that, no, you won't get much more detail than that.
Kathy?
And you are going to get the cost of the trail. You're not going to get, as in many of the issues you brought up in terms of maintenance and liability and things like that, that you still have to get costed.
Yep, Scott.
This Seymour Lake, the M15, is not a new theory. It's something that's been discussed. In the back rooms, it's been discussed since last July. What nobody can say is, where did the routes A, B, C, and D come from? It's kind of a minutia in the air. And what was discussed is there was 2 things. And I'm not saying I'm for this route, so I want to make it clear with everybody, but I want you to understand why it came up. Is that Oxford is coming up Seymour Lake. As soon as it exits Brandon Township, it's going to be on M15. The second argument was, the whole point of this trail is to introduce visitors to our township and let them know what businesses there are. Well, all these other routes bypassed all the businesses. There was going to be no introduction to any business. So the thought was, get people introduced to the cider mill and to the ice cream shop, and then coming up M15, all the restaurants there. Again, I'm not saying I'm for it, but I'm just saying that's why this route was added. Because it seems like the first 4 routes just came, nobody wants to say where they came from. It's somebody made them up, and nobody thought about, well, what's the most realistic purpose of this trail is supposedly to bring business to the township, and yet these 4 routes completely bypass all the businesses. It didn't make any sense. Couple that with how the trail enters and exits the township. That's why this route came up, just so everybody knows.
And I guess I feel about spending the 1,500, if it's not gonna give us all the answers of the maintenance and all that stuff, then why spend it? Because you're not gonna get everything that's needed to make the decision. And you could do it on the routes that have already been determined. And as you said, you could probably get an estimate or a ballpark on our own if you take the mileage. And then you can use that to do it, and it'd be enough to see. Because the question still is where does that funding come from anyways for the stuff outside of the grant? So if that's not there, then
It's a
again,
moot point.
right, so why spend the money?
I think if you're comfortable doing it that way, that's a perfectly reasonable way to approach it. You know, it's basically how much information does your board need to make a decision for the October 1 deadline?
Right.
That's basically, it boils
Again,
down to
it's not
that.
that I'm against trails, I just really need to see everything, the residents it affects, the costs, all that stuff. And you could still do the study on Seymour Lake to M15 of how many residents it affects. I mean, that's easy to do, you don't need the engineer, you got the township roll of homes.
We can identify the route
Yeah.
marking and then use the averages over those 4 trails and come up with a number using that. We can certainly do that. We're not accredited experts at that business to give you that level of detail if you're considering the engineering firm to be that, but you will get an estimate from the subcommittee to.
But theirs is a ballpark anyways.
Agreed.
And again, if that doesn't get answered, all these other questions might not be correct anyways for us to vote that to do or not to do a route anyways.
We can also get information from Kristen Wiltfang from Oakland County. She has some costing information that could
Okay.
probably help us with a little bit more accuracy on an estimate that we would provide.
Just from my perspective, no matter how we try to make a determination on cost of these trails, to me, it's the same as taking a dartboard and throwing a dart. Yep, there goes, there's one price. I mean, there's no consistency, there's no science to this that I can see from the studies we've gotten. So we might as well sit back with a dartboard and darts and just throw it and say, okay, well, we have a range of 5 million to 25 million, because it doesn't matter.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have all our questions answered for this item? Okay. Did someone want to make a motion? I'll go ahead and make the motion just to break the ice. To have HRC do a cost estimate on the Seymour Lake to M15 proposed Iron Bell Trail segment for an amount not to exceed $1,500. Would someone like to second that motion? It's quiet.
I'll second your motion, Kathy.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Thurman, seconded by Trustee Broughton, to have HRC do a cost estimate on the Seymour Lake to M15 proposed Iron Bell Trail segment for an amount not to exceed $1,500. Is there any further discussion? No, we'll do a roll call, please.
Marshall?
No.
Allen is absent with notice. Broughton?
Yes.
Darnall?
No.
De Palma?
No.
Cordella?
No.
Thurman?
Yes, motion fails. 2-4. Okay. Now we can move on to item G. Removal of trustee subcommittee member. If we do discuss this, the trustee has asked that we do it in closed session, but
No, I will waive that.
Okay.
I want to make this as fast as possible. This has now become, to me, an enigma at best. I just want to be able to say a few things, and let's move on. Okay, this has now gotten to be out of control,
Okay.
so we don't need
So
to
you,
break away. So
you don't want to.
Let's move on.
You don't want to have the attorney present during this?
I asked to have the attorney present, I was voted down.
No, that was to take it off the agenda.
Until the attorney was present.
Right. Well, take it off, yeah, take it off the agenda, which is the same thing. But I don't know, is there discussion
Well,
on having the attorney present?
Well, I guess I'm questioning why doesn't it, it's a committee that we,
Impaneled.
that we paneled. It's not like we're taking him off of the board. It's discussion of removing somebody from a committee. You removed me from the Parks and Rec subcommittee. I mean, we didn't, you know.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, it's just, I was on the Parks and Rec subcommittee. And
Yes.
you redid it, so I was no longer on the subcommittee.
We didn't remove you, we voted.
To
we
change
had
it, we
had a
voted to
new-
change
we
it.
had a new
So,
committee, yes.
so isn't that kind of like we're voting to change the committee? I don't see any difference in that than when the subcommittee got changed, is what I'm trying to state. I don't see that it's an employment issue or any of that type of thing. He's still on the board of Brandon Township.
Yeah,
It's the
and-
subcommittee, and it's like when you changed it on me.
Okay, you know, and like I said, I read what he sent out at least 10 times, what he, Stuart Cooney, sent out 10 times. And I reread that one line that Mr. Marshall talked about, and I reread that. Now, if you read the entire paragraph, it says, second, you have a request for board discussion on removing a member of the committee. The board does not have authority to remove a member unless the board is the appointing entity. Now, just hold on. Even if the board is the appointing entity, I don't believe that having contrary or unpopular opinion is a valid basis for removal. That's the thing I wanted to get clarified. The purpose of a committee is to come to a consensus, not unanimity. The majority vote ultimately determines what action takes place, which is the vote of the board. And so I wanted to make that.
Are we debating this now?
No,
or,
no, we're.
Okay, all right.
Well,
And so,
I just want to make sure.
therefore,
We are
I got,
discussing it.
I got confused with that line of talk. So it's
So
like,
that's what you want clarified by the attorney?
well, exactly. It's like, he says, even if the appointing entity, I don't believe that having a contrary or unpopular opinion is valid basis for removal.
And my opinion was that is not going to be the purpose and reason for the removal.
What was
It's lack of representation of the public is going to be the
And I
reason,
can address that.
rationale
And
for
that's
the
why,
removal.
that's why we're here talking about it.
So if I may,
Okay.
all
If we
right?
want to go forward, let's
I
go
mean, if
forward.
it's okay with Chris, and Chris, you're
That's-
okay
that's-
with
that's
doing
fine.
it in
Yeah, that's
the
fine.
open meeting?
I was confused.
What are we gonna do? Is somebody gonna make the motion, or are we gonna move forward, or we're just gonna kinda kick this around and then not do
No.
anything about it?
Well,
forward.
it seems
No.
as though what we were first discussing was having the attorney present for this, to answer questions.
Like the one I had.
I'm in favor of having the attorney present, and I'd also like to have Clerk Allen present.
Right, but
at the
that
same
was
time.
discussed already, and we got voted down on that.
Well,
okay?
it wasn't discussed in its entirety. It was an agenda item.
Could you,
that
could we read the
discussed.
minutes back to see what was actually discussed? Because I think we did discuss it in its entirety.
It's not part of the minutes.
It was when we were discussing the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
wouldn't
you
be in the
don't,
minutes?
discuss an item on the agenda when you're discussing removing an item from the agenda. It's more or less, do you want it removed or not? And we decided to keep the item on the agenda.
So now we're going to discuss the item on the agenda.
So now we're going to discuss it.
Right.
But in so doing, we're also discussing whether or not the attorney should be present as part of our discussion.
Can I ask a question?
What, go ahead.
Madam Secretary.
Yes.
I want to say Madam Secretary. Supervisor.
Just call her president.
Okay. I guess I'm trying to find out from Trustee Marshall if he, because it says here, per Stewart, I don't believe, so it's just his belief, that having contrary or unpopular opinions is a valid reason for removal. So I'm trying to find out from Trustee Marshall, is he removing because of unpopular opinions and contrary and unpopular opinions? Is that why he's asking Trustee Cordella to be removed? Or is he asking Trustee Cordella to remove because the way he is treating residents and treating other board members? So to me, did Stuart totally understand why Trustee Marshall was asking for a change of the subcommittee? Because I don't think it was just because he didn't agree. I don't think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong,
I will.
that Trustee Marshall was asking for him to be removed just because he was for trails. I think it was because the way others were being treated. And I know when I got this email and read what he was saying to people, I was like, well, gosh, that's kind of, offensive, and I wouldn't like to be treated like that, being I'm supposed to be
If I may
fellow
clarify
board
my
member.
position.
Well, just 1 minute, please. You asked, you don't know what Stuart meant, the attorney meant.
I don't know if Stuart understood what
If he understood,
Trustee-
and that is why I believe he needs to be here, so that we can clarify.
No, but what I'm saying is
everything that
he
has.
says we don't have a right to remove if it's just because Trustee Cardella does not have an unpopular opinion. But if we're asking to remove for the way he's treating others, I don't think that's not what he wrote here. He was just saying you shouldn't remove because it's unpopular, his opinion. And that's not what Trustee Marshall was doing,
which
is
is
what I
not.
don't think. It was because others, the way they were being treated.
Which is not why I'm asking for
Because
removal.
I would not appreciate being treated like that, and I don't like seeing you or you being treated disrespectful. We need to treat everybody respectful. That's part of the
I know.
Robert
Okay,
rules.
so if I may
Just going
explain
back
my
to the-
position.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I understand this is a hot button topic. I understand there's emotions. I understand not all of us shares the same views. I'm fine with that. What I'm asking for is the representation of the community with an open and fair and balanced view. Not shutting down discussion and not shutting down opinions that are offered up as requested by yourself from the board members and from the community. And that's exactly what happened in that email. He said, I do not want to hear it anymore from you.
And you need to.
Well, so,
And there's
so-
a story behind
But,
that.
well,
All right, well,
just 1 minute.
If I may, and that's why I
Go
have
ahead
this.
and finish.
Okay.
So go ahead and
So,
finish.
Brandon Township Board of Trustees established the Trails Subcommittee to provide the Board of Trustees with input and recommendations in regard to the feasibility of a route through Brandon Township, which would tie into the proposed Iron Bell Trail. In order to make their recommendations to the Board of Trustees, the subcommittee was tasked with assessing input, ideas, historical data, geographical information, pricing, citizens' concerns, safety, disruption of private property, citizen privacy, maintenance, long-term and short-term continuing costs, and a plethora of other issues that have been raised over the past years about the proposed project. Input was to be obtained from the Board of Trustees and residents alike. In particular, Board of Trustee members were encouraged to forward their questions and concerns to the committee. Board of Trustees appointed its own members to the to the subcommittee, not with the intended purpose of having everyone on the same side of the issue, but to make sure that the members of the subcommittee maintained an open mind and a willingness to accept input from the Board of Trustees and residents alike. Likewise, an extensive application and interview process was instituted for citizen volunteers to that subcommittee. Again, the intent was not to have every one of the volunteers selected agree on a course of action, but to ensure that all were willing to accept questions and concerns raised by the Board of Trustees and residents of the community. To that end, I'm talking, please. To that end, input and concerns were forwarded by a member of the Brandon Township Board of Trustees to the subcommittee members. Trustee Cordella, having received the concerns of the trustee, responded with the following reply, quote, "In the future, please do me a favor and don't send me any more of your whining propaganda against trails," end quote. The reply clearly shows that Trustee Cordella has no intent to fill the responsibility placed on him by Board of Trustees by maintaining an open mind and accepting all information submitted by residents and Board of Trustee members alike. In fact, the reply goes one step further, requesting that no further information or concerns be forwarded to him, and vilifying the trustees' concerns as whining propaganda. The Iron Bell Trail issue is obviously a hot-button issue, and the community has garnered much heated debate. Every one of the board trustees has received multiple emails and packages from citizens. Examples tonight, we got at least 4. Personally, I receive input from citizens on an average of 2 per week. We may or may not agree with the positions offered up by those contacting us who wish to voice their concerns in regard to the Iron Bell Trail. However, it would be unconscionable for any one of us to respond to those residents' concerns in the manner in which Trustee Cordella replied to his email. The reply sent by Trustee Cordella now shows he is unwilling to maintain an open mind and view all material sent to him for consideration as tasked by the Board of Trustees, but also clearly demonstrates he is actively seeking to restrict input from residents and trustees who have a differing opinion than his own. The community has the right to expect that the trail issue be handled in a fair and balanced manner. Trustee Cordella has shown obvious disregard for those community expectations. And this is not personal. I don't dislike Chris. This is not personal. But you have to treat citizens and other board members with respect when it comes to a hot-button issue like that. And you can't write it off as, well, it's just whining propaganda. It's completely inappropriate.
Okay, are you finished?
I am done.
Okay.
For
Chris,
now.
Chris, go ahead and.
Okay. The document that Bob is really referring to, okay, is this document here, okay? That was sent to me, that was sent to the entire board, which is a violation of the Open Meetings Act, by the way. One of many. But anyways, in it, he in particular, Mr. Broughton, and once again, I don't hate Scott, but he attacks one of the members of the community, a man by the name of Dave Van Dis, who I've known for almost 14 years since I've been in the township. Now, Dave happens to be pro-trail, I realize that, and Dave has sent me many emails to the point where it's almost like I am sick of them, okay? I have to admit, even though I'm pro-trails, I'm sick of his emails, I'm sick of some of the stuff that he continues to pass out, okay? But having said that, okay, let's get to the meat of the matter. Scott casts aspersions in no indirect manner at all, quite bluntly, about Dave Van Dis, why the effort to recruit pro-trail activists from other communities, while Dave Van Dis was, quote, filling the room with helpers. Actually, Brandon Township residents were relegated to standing in the hallway. We don't know that, if you know, but the bottom line is, are these the actions? And he questions the man's honorable and being deceitful. And he basically says he's not honorable and he has no integrity. Then he gives 2 Facebook shots below, which basically are Facebook shots off of the Facebook, and basically they are very clear that they were sent out to a bicycling club that Dave Van Dis belongs to, and basically just saying, hey, there's a trail meeting. If you're if you want trails, why don't you show up? Now Clarkston and all the areas around here are watching Brandon Township because they want to hook into a trail in Brandon Township. Okay? He goes on to say, and then he unfortunately Scott starts to make fun of the cycling club and says 48 people like this. Well, on Facebook, you're able to say whether you like an item or not, no matter who you are, no matter what you like about that item. So, but I mean, the obvious thing, and this is the one thing I want to make clear.
Excuse me.
No, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Supervisor Thurman, isn't there one of the stage you just talked about in the Robert's Rules of Order that you stay on topic?
I am.
This is not staying on topic. He's
Sorry,
talking about
Bob,
another
Bob, he
completely.
is on topic.
I am
He
on
is
Okay.
on topic.
I am
I'm
on
sorry.
topic. This is on topic. This is
Bob
what you're
was
talking
talking
about.
about- no,
This
he's
is what I.
talking
No, I was talking about your reply, not what another trustee
And
sent
my reply
you.
was to this.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay?
Go ahead.
I just don't like,
His reply to
I
Bob.
just didn't get out of,
It was his reply to
just get on Scott to get on Scott, okay? The bottom line is I did not like him attacking my friend Dave Van Dis. I didn't think it was appropriate, and I said so in my email back to him. And basically, when you decided to then attack me, saying, how dare you
Did I attack
do
you?
that?
Where did I attack you?
But Bob,
It's throughout, it's throughout every letter. You sent emails to the board members.
Chris,
They-
you're speaking to me.
I know, I am.
So just
I'm
finish
I'm
your
looking
thought.
at you.
Okay.
What else do I gotta do? I mean, I gotta get like right next to you and, hug you or what? But anyways, the bottom line is, the issue I had with Scott was purely his attack on Dave Van Dis, okay? And when I said whining propaganda, it was about Facebook articles and about people from Clarkston possibly coming to our meeting in Brandon Township and so on and so forth. And that's what I considered whining propaganda, okay? And I thought that this was inappropriate, and I said to Scott, please don't send me this kind of stuff anymore, and especially don't send me stuff that degrades and disrespects a resident of the community, Dave Van Dis, who I happen to know and I happen to respect an awful lot. That's all it was.
So then trustee Cordell
wait,
has admitted
wait.
to having sent disrespectful email to.
Okay,
But
now,
didn't he
now
send
we
them-
have to hear from other
All right.
trustees, and then we'll come back,
Okay,
okay?
so my question is, I'm sure Scott wants to respond, but.
I really don't.
Okay.
No, but-
If you want to, I will too. Okay.
I want to make it clear.
Scott, I didn't want to
Okay,
go there anymore.
Hold on.
I'm fine, Chris. I sent this email as a direct result of questions that were in our audience at last meeting, as well as 2 letters in the paper wondering why there were so many Clarkston residents in our meeting raising their hands saying, yes, I want a trail. So I took some screenshots of Facebook. I did not disrespect Dave Van Dis. I suggested that we were misled when he invited people from Clarkston to our meeting. And that's all. I took no position on the trail in this email. All I did is provide screenshots to give an example of why we possibly had so many people from Clarkston. As a reply, I was told from Chris that he doesn't want to hear my opinion. I don't care that he's for the trail. I care that he does not want to hear any other opinion than his own. That is not being open-minded. That's not a good place I don't want him on the subcommittee because he won't listen to anybody else, and that's bad.
Well, when you say anybody else, is there,
Well,
are
you're
there
right, that was
examples of-
no, that wasn't over. He will not listen to my opinion. That's a problem. He doesn't have to agree with it, but he's stated that he doesn't want to listen to it. That's a problem for me.
Yes.
I have 2 things. 3 things. One, I did not see in Scott's email that he disrespected anybody like I saw in trustee Broughton, I shouldn't say Scott, as I see in trustee Cordella's email of disrespect. I didn't see him disrespect a resident. He was giving us factual information because I know for a fact, again, like he says, there was Clarkston residents sitting here who were raising their hand, and I know that I had residents who were in that hallway who could not hear, who asked if we could postpone, and I don't think it's fair that our own residents can't be part of our meeting because residents from outside of our township who don't pay taxes were part of the meeting. Not that they can't be here, that they can be here, but I feel that our township residents should be able to hear what we're saying and be there. I had someone who texted me who said, hey, I cannot hear what's going on. And so that's number 1. Number 2, I think, which again, wasn't there an email from when you sent your questions, Bob?
Wait, you're talking to me, right?
Oh, sorry, when trustee Marshall sent his questions, did trustee Cordella also respond to him when trustee Marshall wasn't even doing?
Send his questions regarding trails?
Well, what was it when he responded
It
to
was,
trustee Marshall? What I'm trying to figure out, because why did he respond to trustee Marshall saying he didn't want any whining propaganda? I thought we were talking about that, nothing to do with Scott.
No, this was
That
one
was a
too.
different comment.
sent a
That was
different one for
a different.
That was a
comment.
different one to me.
So there's
But
been
we're
more-
dealing specifically with the one to.
Okay, I thought
trustee
it was
Brooke.
one that happened to you too.
No, it was a different
That
one
was
also.
not on trails. That was in regard to Donna Ferrara and the planning
Oh, that's,
commission.
okay. That was it, so,
Is that it?
yes.
Did you have anything to say?
Disrespect is not tolerated and
Mhm.
never should be.
Okay. All right, Bob, it's back. Well, oh, wait.
I'm set. I'm set. I'm sure you have something to say.
I do, but now I forgot what it was.
Keep up.
I'm still of the mindset that I think the township attorney needs to be involved in this, and also Clerk Allen. I do agree that Mr. Cordella's choice of wording could have been better. He should, I mean, in the first place,
And I have agreed it
this was a Open Meetings Act violation because all three of you were replying to the whole board, and that shouldn't be happening on email. And part of that.
Actually, I
That
did not. I did not reply to that
No,
email at all.
nobody
so
replied
it was
to my
not.
email.
I know, but I mean, your screenshot that you sent to the whole board, that shouldn't have happened
That
to the
was
whole board.
informational purposes only. I've specifically asked nobody to reply to
But
the
you
email.
did have your opinions attached to it.
No,
No,
it's,
you don't have it all. so
Well,
don't
if
do
you
that.
say, are these
get it that day,
the actions of a person?
That's right, I
acting
asked a
honorably?
question. It was just a rhetorical question. Are these the actions of someone acting honorably, or are we being deceived? That's all I did. And when,
And then you said, keep in mind, anyone with an internet connection could fill out that survey.
Correct.
And then it says, I imagine between the Flying Rhinos and Oxford Township, the number is something a whole lot less than 5%. That's your summation of what's happening. So it is considered deliberation.
none of
in my
those topics
opinion.
were before the board for any kind of decision.
If you had just sent the screenshots and
Okay.
not said,
Nobody would have
it's not
understood them.
Exactly.
deliberation, but
So,
still,
okay.
that's.
but if there's no deliberation taking place, and
Then
if he
it
would
would've
have
been
sent
fine.
an email, okay, so next time what he needs to do is send one separately to Chris, one separately to,
Right.
one separately to each of us, and then it's fine, we all still receive
No,
the
he
same piece
could,
of
he could send
information.
the screenshots and say, this is what.
There was no
what was
deliberation
on-
or anything.
But
Can we get back on
when
topic?
when you add,
you.
when you start talking about it.
But we're not talking about Scott, so let's
Yeah.
just get
Yeah,
on with
well,
things.
that's-
It's 10
But
o'clock
I
and
knew
I'm
I
just the
tired.
know,
way
but
this
I'm
was gonna
making
go
my-
before we started.
if I may.
knew this was gonna
So,
happen.
just,
And
I
I'm
know.
saying, I took no position on anything. I sent some screenshots and explained them. It didn't have anything to do with pro or negative trails. It's just to explain why we had Clarkston members in our meeting. That's it. That's all it was.
If I may, for the reasons I
But
cited.
what, just 1 minute, I'm still talking, I
Okay.
still have the floor, I'm
All
sorry,
right.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It says, keep in mind, anyone with an internet connection could fill out that survey, and that is not true.
No,
because
it is
that's-
true. It's absolutely true. Anybody in the world could have filled out that survey.
But the
As an IT
but the
person,
s-
I can tell you that's a fact.
But the survey asked if you were a resident or a non-resident.
Okay.
I never lie on a survey.
Surveys never lie, yeah.
And the IP addresses were recorded, Scott.
That
did
I
we
haven't
check
seen.
'em?
I'll
Did
check
we-
them.
did we check all the IP?
I haven't seen them.
But you didn't ask to know if that's what
But did we
happened.
check, I mean,
So, I'm just saying that,
I've been saying that for a while now, Kathy. It's not like it was a new statement.
were the IP addresses actually checked to make sure they were coming from a Brandon Township and
it needs to be researched before you make an opinion on something. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying it's right the way that Chris Cordella responded to you. That was wrong.
I'm not concerned with the tone of his response. I'm concerned with the fact that he doesn't want to listen to any other opinion than his own. That's the problem for me.
But I have sent a lot of emails through to Chris, and he has not responded that he's not accepting those opinions, and they were against trails.
Okay.
So I know in this instance that happened.
Okay.
I'm done.
In fact, I'm very, very saddened when I hear people and their stories about how they feel, you know, very badly about the trail going through and disrupting their property. I'm very, very saddened by that kind of stuff. To the point where I'm almost like going from pro-trail to against trails.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Chris, because you know what else? Last year, you were invited to actually visit some of the homeowners along the trail, and at that point, you refused to even visit them because you were so anti-trails that you didn't even want to see it.
Precisely. And isn't that interesting, Scott, that I've changed my mind?
Okay, now you're not supposed to be talking to each other.
I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
talking to you, Kathy.
All right,
Isn't
thank
that interesting that I changed my mind and I decided, based on monies that I consider to be opportunity for this township, $5 to $7 million of infrastructure improvements, that is my bias. That is my bias now.
Okay.
And that is what I'm for. Okay? And if it goes into trails, which are considered parks, okay, that is a plus. And so I am in favor of investigating thoroughly as much as possible, because what did I run under? What did I run under? What was my slogan?
No trails, low
Fighting,
taxes.
no, fighting to lower taxes, right?
This is gonna
I
increase
think again, we're
taxes.
getting off
Yeah,
subject.
But what I'm saying is,
Profit.
okay, I'm not in favor of being, you know, pro-trails to the point where it's gonna cost us money, okay? Bottom line.
If I may,
All right.
for the reasons I.
Wait, are you
okay.
finished with your comment?
Yeah.
For
Okay.
the reasons I
Bob.
cited, I move to remove trustee Cordella from the Trails Subcommittee.
You're
and be
making a
replaced.
motion?
I am making a motion.
I second that motion. Let's move.
Did you have that written down somewhere?
I did.
I think it was,
Brenda,
Right here.
resolution sought.
action required, requested, yeah.
You just make it August 7th instead of August 5th.
Oh, yeah, wrong date.
This is you're reading number 1.
Right here,
Well,
Kathy.
the whole resolution sought.
The action
Oh,
requested.
that up there. Oh,
August 7th, do you want to change your date there?
Do I have an August,
7th?
do I have a
You
date
have
on it?
August 5th.
No, you have 5th, it's
First
7th.
line of action requested.
Oh. Oh, well, that would have been the day I actually wrote it, so. It goes back to my old police writing days. Yeah, we can make that 7th. Old habits are hard to break.
Who seconded it?
I did.
You did? All right, so okay. I have a motion by trustee Marshall, seconded by treasurer Darnell. So where did you start?
Okay, so
here?
trustee Chris Cordell be removed from the Iron Bell Trail Subcommittee.
Trustee- Oh,
Two.
to have trustee Chris Cordella removed from the Iron Bell Trail Subcommittee, right?
2, another member of the Board of Trustees assumes the position vacated by trustee Cordella. And 3, should another member of the board be unwilling or unable to serve on the subcommittee, the vacated position be filled by a volunteer resident. The volunteer is to be determined by a new selection
It was
process.
on this page,
Yeah.
and then they also go to
Oh,
this
no,
one.
no, you're right. You're right.
Oh.
That's the resolution sought.
That's what-
It's police
sorry.
reporting
Sorry.
stuff.
I was
you
going
know.
off of what
Yeah,
treasurer Darnell said.
yeah.
All right,
Sorry, okay.
okay. So
Gotcha.
it's 1, 2, and 3.
3, right.
Be removed from the Iron Bell Trail Subcommittee and then by the board trustee assumes the position based on the interest and the member of the board be unwilling or unable to serve on the subcommittee.
Okay. Are you seconding?
I am
that
seconding that motion right there.
All right, I have a motion by trustee Marshall,
Question about who was
supported by treasurer Darnell, to, let's see, it should be 2. To have trustee Cordella be removed from the Iron Bell Trail Subcommittee, to have another member of the Board of Trustees assume the position vacated by trustee Cordella? And should another member of the board be unwilling to or unable to serve on the subcommittee, the vacated position shall be filled by a volunteer resident. Volunteers to be determined by a new selection process. Okay, and that's what you seconded. Okay, discussion on the motion.
I have one question. Would you mean, does trustee Marshall mean a new selection process, or would they go back to the old applicants and just pick one of those?
Well, I'm not sure what, because my understanding was, and that's why I sort of left it like this, my understanding was some people put applications in, but they weren't selected to be interviewed, so I'm not quite sure.
I would say this is just my opinion, if this takes place, is a new selection process, because they need to get moving on it, and there's already a meeting on Wednesday, that it would be from the applicant, someone selected from the, but again.
And I'd be fine with
If
that.
the trustees don't step in first.
If the trustees don't step in
Right.
first, that you'd look
Right.
at the applicants that you already had.
Yeah, and I'd be
So-
fine with that. I just don't know.
There's not time to try to get
I just
new
don't know where they were at as far as which
Maybe-
applicants they used and
Maybe what we
didn't
should
use.
do is just do the first two and then do a separate motion and figure out the filling of the position should it be approved.
I would say.
The second
No,
separate motion.
I would say leave all those, because if a trustee can't do it, then you'd want to have your next step, which your next step would be the volunteers to be determined from a applicant already received. That's just my
Yeah,
suggestion,
and you know what,
because
and
why
I'd
would
go
you
with,
go through a new
and I would go
selection
with,
process?
along with that. that,
Why would you go through a new selection
Yeah,
process
I'd
when
go
time
along with
is
that
under
amendment.
Of the
constraints?
essence.
Yeah.
That'd be fine. Like I said, I just wasn't sure where they were in the process, because I knew some people weren't even interviewed, so I just left it open. So I'd
But
go
you
along
could
with
still
that.
interview those who.
Yeah, I'd go along with that amendment.
That's just my opinion, trying to move it along quicker if it happens.
You're amending your motion?
Yes.
How are you amending your motion? Because we
From,
have to-
from the, instead of new process, selection process, from existing pool, from, let's see, existing
You guys don't have to change your motion.
pool
Just making a suggestion, make a question.
of volunteer applicants.
So how does it read? So,
Okay, so 3 would be, should another member of the board be unwilling or unable to serve on the subcommittee, the vacated position will be filled by a volunteer resident. The volunteer is to be determined from existing pool of volunteer applications.
You know, Kathy, have we finished discussion on this yet?
no, just hold on a minute. Existing pool.
Of volunteer applications.
Just to save you some writing.
Volunteer applications. And
Go
are
for it.
you, Terry, are you okay with the amendment to the
Sure.
motion? Yes. Okay, now Scott.
I just, to save you some writing, I think the point's been made. I think it's gonna hurt the subcommittee more than anything else at this point. So, I'm gonna vote with you and Chris. I think it's just, we're in a dead rush here, and I think I agree. I think the wording's gotten out there. Everyone's got the point, but we need to move forward with the subcommittee. And I think we're just gonna, if we keep pushing this thing out, we're not gonna be able to come to a proper decision by October. I think the point's been made. I'm okay with it. Okay?
Kathy,
Okay.
can I say
Yes.
something now too?
Yes.
And I would like to just tell Scott, you know, had I known where you were going, you know, with regards to the things, I wouldn't have wrote what I wrote.
We're fine.
you
It's
know,
fine.
No, listen, I just want to tell you, I
Supposed
viewed
to
it.
speak to me, though.
He's gonna say, listen.
I viewed it as an attack on Dave Van Dis, and criticizing not only his zeal for.
You gotta talk me right out of it,
Yeah,
Chris.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You made this.
Okay, I just, okay, forget it. I have nothing else to say. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it.
Any other discussion on this motion?
I don't think that it will slow us down to get somebody new in there fast.
Did you say that to me?
Yes, I did.
That it won't slow, say,
It
speak
won't-
up because I don't
It won't
think
slow the
everyone-
subcommittee down to pick another trustee or someone from the available pool.
Did-
This attitude is not gonna change. It's not new. It's not welcome.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
have a question. And I could go back to the minutes, but it might just be easier to ask. I know positions were formed. Dwight is the project manager, you're the chairman, I think you were the co-chairman. Did Chris have a position? Has he been assigned tasks that he's been working on yet?
He didn't have a specific position.
And has he been assigned tasks yet, or no, that's
No,
coming?
That's
no
coming.
one has.
Okay, so it wouldn't slow down if we did have someone who
That'll
could do
happen
it.
on Wednesday.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion, and I'll read it just one last time before we vote. To have trustee Chris Cordella be removed from the Iron Bell Trail Subcommittee, to have another member of the Board of Trustees assume the position vacated by trustee Cordella, and should another member of the board be unwilling or unable to serve on the subcommittee, the vacated position shall be filled by a volunteer resident. The volunteer is to be determined from the existing pool of volunteer applications, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And that motion is made by trustee Marshall, and it is seconded by treasurer Darnell. Yes. Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Allen is absent with notice. Broughton.
No.
Darnell.
Yes.
DePalma.
Yes.
Cordella.
No.
Marshall.
Yes.
Thurman.
No. Motion fails. It's 3-3.
That's gonna be fun.
We must be very interesting because everybody has stayed this late.
Sure there's some comments.
Okay, so at this point, we
Everyone
will
wants
take
to use it.
citizens' comments. Yes.
Hello, Shannon Johns. You need the whole address and all that again, or do we know? All right, I just want to say, because I was listening to all of this, which I very much felt like I was at home with my children, because at the end of the day, it was, he said, it was ridiculous. But I was here at the last meeting, and I was in the hallway, because this room was full of people from Clarkston. And I know that because I knew a lot of them, because I lived in Clarkston my whole life. And I could tell you from somebody who lived in Clarkston that long and gone to meetings and stuff there, that wouldn't have happened that way at one of their meetings. And as much as I agree that they should be here, because I know they are cyclists, they do enjoy the trails, and that's big in the community, the people in this township and the people that this is affecting should have been in here. I mean, they can hang out and they can listen, and but when it come to the vote, who here wants a trail, they had no business raising their hand. They were here just to pay attention and to listen and to see what was going on. They shouldn't have had a vote in what was going to affect my taxes and what was going to affect my property values and what's going to ultimately affect my insurance rates.
I agree.
So,
We can't.
I know you can't restrict that, and I understand that, I do. But, you know, and it should be known that that kind of stuff is out there. And yes, anybody can fill that survey out. I could go to the Brandon Library right now and fill out anything, and my IP address will be the Brandon Library. So that might be something you want to consider when you're going through your surveys.
Thank you. Yes.
All this stuff about the survey in Clarkston, it just seems like a big waste of time to me. I think you ought to just move forward with the trail, either vote on for the trail or against it. You made some points earlier about some of the people that got up about the management of the trail and have washouts and liability. Let me ask you something. You've got a park system here that's managed by the parks director, and you have subcommittees. I believe Trustee DePalma talked about it earlier about how you managed the park, and you built the new park out there. What would be the difference in building that new park out there than building the trail? I mean, you've done that. You've done a great job at it. You've built a park, you manage the park, you manage the liability. I'm sure they have rainstorms over there and occasional washout, and you manage to deal with it without making the papers and having any kind of insurance problems. I'm sure that you can handle it just like you've handled the park. Anyhow, I would hope that if I think that you should represent the 18,000 people in the community, not just maybe half a dozen pros and cons in the audience today, and think about how this affects everyone in the community that maybe are not here tonight, that depend on you to make the right choices for them. They believe that you're here making the right choices and don't have a bunch of personal agendas, but really think about how it will affect their children, the young families that move into the community, like that subdivision down there on M15, and throughout the rest of the community that maybe want to use this, and how will this reflect back in 10, 15, 20 years on whether you put the trail in or not put the trail in. And think about whether managing it is going to be an issue. You know it's not going to be. If you can do the park, you can certainly do this. Thank you.
Paul.
I got a couple of, can I do a couple of comments?
3 minutes.
So first, can I, with what went on up here, and Chris has actually, I have written a couple of articles to the paper. Chris, you have responded. It's not so much what you said, it's how you said it. That's my only complaint. You have, if you're up there, you need to be able to take the heat. I give Kathy quite a bit of heat, but she does respect me, and I do respect her. So that would be the only thing I would have to say about that. And the other thing is, we're, like on the rec money, that comes from the cell towers, correct? Okay, so let's fast forward like 5 years. Let's say they go to like a GPS-based system and there are no more cell towers. Where are you going to get the money? Where's the money going to come from? Are we setting any money aside? Has anybody thought
That's a good
of
question to
anything?
go to Dwight.
Cell tower? He's in cell tower business now, Dwight is. Dwight's in the cell tower business now?
No, it's just a question on paying for
Okay.
recreation.
Those are my only questions, 2 questions and comments.
Right, thank you. Yes, Chad.
Chad Rimmel again. I have a few comments. First is about the whole timeline and the October date. I actually chuckled when I saw that in the paper, as being to a number of these meetings, and I forget the lady's name that was from Oakland County. It's been doing all the presentations, and there's $22 million and blah, 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 all these fun facts that never tell us exactly how much people actually make off the trails, coincidentally. Also tells us that it's usually 5, 10, 15 years to get a trail built. But now that we're 3 years into it, which I personally don't find appealing, but we gotta have to make a decision right now. Seems kind of fishy to me. Anybody else feel the pressure of the thumb? Mr. Governor wants to be bragging rights, you know, because Flint's out there. The other thing, I find it very, very disturbing, a few of the side conversations that were going on, of we're not actually going to have good firm numbers from the subcommittee meeting, or subcommittee team, excuse me. Then what are we doing? Just getting a bunch of questions together and trying to answer what we can and just let everything else float out there? How do you make a decision? You're not going to have any firm numbers again. We talked about this 2 or 3 months ago, last time I was here. You're not going to have firm numbers to make a good value decision, good or bad, either way. So how do you do that? Basically, in my mind, that means the October 9th decision's already been made. You can't make it, period. If they want to route the trail around, we can do it later and connect later on our own if we want to, whatever. But in my mind, that decision has already been made. You can't do it because you're not going to have the numbers, or the information you get's not going to be complete. I also see a lot of missing information. I do need to email the gentleman with the questions too. Parking areas for the trail. All of these trails, where are people going to park? Keep in mind, how big is Brandon Township? I don't know off the top of my head. Seriously, I'm asking.
6 square miles.
How much?
6 square miles.
6 square miles. So what is that? 2 by 3?
36 square. 36 square miles.
36 by 6.
I'm sorry, 6 by 6.
6 by 6.
That's what I
Okay.
meant.
So literally, if you run the trail directly through the middle of
Excuse
it, or kitty corner through it, people are still gonna have to drive their cars. Even local residents are still gonna have to drive their cars.
Yes.
Or they're gonna have to bike along the roads, or they're gonna have to walk along the roads. So all of those issues aren't just magically disappearing, except for the few neighbors that have it in their front yards. So you're not really eliminating those problems, you're just not driving 8 miles to Oxford. You're driving 3 up the road. You're still driving. Okay, so that's not gonna eliminate that. The other issues I have is, all these numbers we see floating around. We have, 5 million versus 13 million, just for simple mathematics. We know there's inaccuracies in those numbers. Trustee Bob? Mr. Marshall?
Trustee Bob,
I
yeah,
like
that's
Trustee
all
Bob,
right.
sorry.
That's all right, it's
fine. You're, throwing a dart. I've done a lot of data analysis in my career as an engineer. You don't know what the inaccuracies are. You don't know which way the inaccuracies go. The inaccuracies are not the same for each analysis. So it is literally throwing a dartboard. You can't stack those numbers. If you're going to do that, stack them now and just make a decision, because you're going to do the same exact thing. Sorry, I'm losing train of thought here. So many points. Clearing. You're going to be widening them. The ITC corridor, the part that is open was not open wide enough for the trail requirements. So even having 5-6 feet of trees for the entire length, 7 miles of that trail or whatever it was, that's a ton of trees going down. Same thing's gonna happen on Seymour Lake. Same thing's gonna happen on A, on B, on D. It doesn't matter. The questions are all gonna be the same, or issues are all gonna be the same, excuse me.
30 seconds.
Brandon Township doesn't have the footprint economically nor physically that Rochester or Oxford does, with the trail going through the very center of a town that's already there, that already has the tax base to build things and move things and pay citizens what they should be deserved if they lose their front yards, etc. We don't have that. Everything's off to one side. So you can't make that comparison. It's very hard to make that comparison. The other comment I'll make real quick is the issues with safety on the sides of the roads. They already do it everywhere else. If you look at some of the MSP information, I believe it's like there's 100 accidents with cars and bicycles outside the road right-of-ways for last year, out of like 1,600 total, if I recall. It's been about a month since I looked at the numbers. But that information's out there to see how safe driving on a sidewalk is, separate from the road. So please review that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the blue.
I just find this eerily reminiscent of, we need to pass this so we can see what's in it, and what that financial debacle has done to our entire nation. Really, seriously. And yes, again, with the, they say it's gonna be this much, you said it's gonna be, they're gonna give us $5 million free dollars. Well, what happens when it's 35 million? Then what? Then we're just gonna suck it out of the taxpayers more? You just said you ran on low taxes. How on earth are you gonna stand there and say that voting for something like this could possibly not impact our taxes? And if you wanna cover everybody in the entire county of township of Brandon, and you wanna do a fair thing that covers everyone, it's their taxes, because everyone pays them. So there's no way you couldn't be fair to everybody by not raising their taxes by this horrible financial debacle. And that's just the bottom line. There's no, let's pass it and see what's in it.
Thank you. Yes. Second time, yes.
Well, I like you guys a lot tonight. I usually don't talk. Actually, what I had was to what you said about the maintenance in the park and how, and flooding out. There's a big difference between a trail and a park. If a park floods out, you close the park for a day. If you got a trail running through somebody's front yard and it floods out and washes out their driveway and floods their basement, that's a bit different. You can't just close somebody's house for the day. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen for that. And, a safe place for our children. I moved my 2 kids here on 2.5 acres of land so they could run and play and have a good time. They like to take their go-kart in the front yard, they fish in the pond, they do all the things that they will not be able to do if there's a sidewalk or a walkway or whatever going through my front yard with strangers pedaling back and forth, walking, talking. And I know a lot of people who use bike trails are decent people. but you get a lot of people who are not. They are magnets for people who are not there for the right reasons, especially when you get out in the country, when you get out where it's dark and it's quiet and anything can happen. And that's a fact. It's an ugly fact, one that not all of us want to think about, but it is a fact. And somebody with small children, well, medium small children, it's a scary thought. It's a scary thought, just anybody coming up in my yard anytime because they want to and they saw the lights on because they were walking down the sidewalk. I don't like it. It's not what I moved here for. And as far as taxes, I don't want to have to raise my taxes and, you know, leaving our footprint and doing all that. People didn't move here for that. The majority of the people who moved out here into the rural, the country area are here because they wanted to be in the country, because they want to have their chickens, because their kids want to run around barefoot in the yard and not have to worry about not being safe. And that's what we're here for, and that is not what you are offering us. And it's honestly not something I want to pay
30
for.
seconds.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Am I going again?
Should I just stand here?
Dale Kramer again. This us and them mentality that everybody has is really short-sighted. It should be about the many and not the few. And, you know, like I have a house down there on M15. I've got a chain link fence, 500 feet on one side. You know, put a fence up if you don't want people wandering in the yard. And there's solutions to all these problems that it's not that big a deal to get there. And again, they're going back about the cost and the maintenance cost. You know, you guys managed the park, you built the park, you can do it again. I mean, you got a park director right there. He can manage it. I'm sure if they have a rain flood, he can take care of it. And as far as, you know, another thing maybe to look into, I had a meeting with MDOT today about my culvert down there. They control, and where the surveyor put my front property line to the white line on the road was about 45 feet. So there's plenty of space in between, and that's MDOT. They control it. And they pretty much told me clearly they controlled it. So maybe they're gonna, if it washes out, I'm sure they're gonna take care of it. If it's the trail itself, maybe there'll be some maintenance. But, you know, they're not gonna wash out. Your driveways don't wash out. M15 doesn't wash out. I mean, we don't have any catastrophic problems along M15 or Seymour Lake. I mean, would they be in the paper? Would it be a big deal to fix them? I don't think so. As far as where people would park here, like you do in Lake Orion and Rochester when you go ride your bike, local businesses, there's plenty of places to park, and I'm sure the business would appreciate the additional income. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want a chance to speak? All right. Yes, sir.
From a non-law enforcement perspective, as a township resident, I grew up out here. I'm a baseball guy, and I have an issue with the trail system when we have a township park out there that hasn't even been developed yet. We don't have baseball fields out there, and that park, once those fields are put in, is going to have additional cost also. And for talking about a trail system when we don't have a township park that's even developed, I think is ridiculous. The other thing is that there is not even a route that's been picked, and I don't care what side of the road it's on, whether it's on the north side or the south side, the cost is going to be different for which side of the road it's on. Because they all have different terrain. And then from a law enforcement perspective, we talk about M15. First of all, I'm not against trails. However, on M15 in the last month, we've had 2 major accidents where cars have left the roadway from distracted driving and a driver that fell asleep. And the only thing that kept those cars from running so far off the road that they would have struck the houses up by the boat bar was because of other parked cars and from trees that stopped them from literally driving through those homes' front door. And those are way off the easements of any roadway and literally up into those businesses and those homes. And we already have an issue with passing on the shoulder of the road now. And if there would have been one kid or one bicyclist walking down the shoulder of that road when those 2 accidents happened, they would have been fatalities. and it only takes one. And I don't want it to be my kids or anybody else in this township. So I have an issue when we have a park that's not even been developed that will benefit our kids for baseball and soccer and those type of things, but yet we're talking about a trail system with absolutely all unknowns. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Just to comment on the parking. When I used to live over in Utica, I used to ride out to the Payne Creek Trail, okay? So you're saying stop at a business. Guess what? The guy came out and said, "You riding the trail? Yeah, don't park here. Because I want people who are going to be paying customers, not riding the trail." So guess what they did? They put a fence up and blocked the trail so you couldn't get on the trail. So that's exactly what's going to happen in town. If I'm out riding my bike, I'm not bringing business to the town, am I? And then people that need to use the businesses obviously can't park because there's no parking because people are parking and driving the trail. That's my only comment.
Thank you.
No response.
Did you want to say anything else? Let's just keep it to 30 seconds, though.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Okay.
We will keep this at a quick 30 seconds. First of all, the community's not going to pay for my fence. You know, nobody wants to put a fence up.
Pay for mine, so pay for your own.
I don't want a fence. I don't want a fence. I like my hill in the open and the beautiful. So I don't want a fence. But he is absolutely right about the parking, because in Clarkston where I lived, when they would ride the trails and stuff around there, if you parked in a business and you were not a paying customer, they towed you. They put signs up, "We will tow you if you park here." So it is going to have to be something that they look at. And you are looking at everything from just going down Seymour Lake Road to M15. That is not the only route on the agenda. So,
You can
That's
have another chance.
not the case, actually, but, I mean, you can keep thinking that, that's fine. But, I mean, there are a lot of things that need to be looked at. Say, no, I'm done.
All right.
I'm not coming back. I don't care what you say, I'm not coming back.
You're done? Okay. Is there anyone else that would
Dwight.
like to? Yes, Dwight.
Hopefully, just to wrap this up, the subcommittee, and as project manager, I'm going to do my best to take in all of the comments, both positive and negative, compile them, sort them, organize them so that the board here can make the best decision possible with as much information as we can possibly gather in the time frame that we're given. And it's also my goal to put it in a way to simplify it as much as possible so that you can make a decision that represents what the people of Brandon Township want you to do. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else want to make a comment? I won't say last call because he'll say.
Right now, I could use last call.
Okay, at this point, we are going to do board's comments. So it looks like we have some board comments. We'll just start at one end and go to the other.
It's going to go quick. First, I'd like to thank everyone, even the pro-trail, pro-homeowner, everyone was fair tonight. You know, we've seen some of these other meetings where it's gotten kind of, some of the people have made some statements that are kind of troubling to me. But I want to make sure that, especially the homeowners, know that it's okay to want to protect your property, okay? And don't let others tell you that you're a bad person because you don't want a trail going across your yard, because it's not true. And there's many people that understand that. Secondly, I'd like to apologize to Bob. He did something tonight that I felt that I decided I didn't want this trail business to get derailed because of a technicality such as what was going to happen tonight. And so I decided let's let the subcommittee move forward and let them make a decision. But I want to apologize to Bob for that. Thirdly, I'm going to miss you, Susan. I'm going to say it again. Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you. Dana?
I just want to say that my questions are so I can make a decision for all of the residents. I have no hidden agendas here. I ride trails with my kids when I get a chance to put their bikes in the car and go somewhere. I have no hidden agenda. Whenever I make a decision, I try to make it best for the residents. You don't hear me say, this is what I want. I'm trying to think of what the residents want. So I just want to get that out there because someone said we have hidden agendas up here. That is why I did not remove Route C. I wanted to be fair to all of the residents, because I knew if I remove that one, the next ones are gonna come in, then I have to say that one, and then we get nothing. And I wanna be fair to the people who want it and the people who don't want it. Secondly, right now, yes, the park is funded by cell tower money of getting the ball fields. If cell tower money goes away, we do have to figure out something for it. But right now, cell tower money's not gone, and we have something for the maintenance. We have something for the insurance. We have something to build it with. We don't have any of that saved or anything out there for the trails. Also, the park right now department, it raises funds. That's how it pays to maintain these ball fields in town here. It has a funding ability because people play ball there. They play soccer there. The trail isn't going to bring in any money. You're not going to have a pay for trails. You're not going to have a little deposit your coin to go down the trail. So there is no funding coming in for that like there is for the ballpark. And I agree. Why are we going to start putting money into a trail? Like, I can't say he was representative as a resident at that time. So as Mr. Glover has stated, that why are we going to do a trail if we still haven't finished the ball fields? The people, we built the ball fields, let's finish them before we try to find money for something else. That's my opinion, so I'd like to keep going on that, and that's why I voted yes on that stuff. If we can come up with funding for a trail and figure it out, but as I said, I'm for them. I'm for or against, it depends on what all these answers come to be. Boy, residents got a lot longer than me, but that's okay. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Pass.
I only have one. Dwight, this is for you if you can put on your list. And I've been thinking about this for about a day. This is supposed to be for hiking and biking only, right? No horses?
No horses.
It all depends if horses are allowed in that particular
No.
trail, but
No.
chances are it's
no
no.
horses.
Okay,
Iron Belt Trail
so
says
my
no
understanding is no horses and no motorized vehicles.
Correct.
No motorized
Okay.
vehicles.
If it's gonna, so anyway, so this is a question I'd like you to put on your list of questions. If the sheriff's department has a difficult time patrolling any of these pathways, how do you keep motorcycles or trail bikes, motorized trail bikes, or go-karts or four-wheel drive things from traveling the trail?
Would you,
Well-
Bob, would you mind emailing that?
Yeah,
to him?
do I have to?
Yes.
He's right here.
I know, but
I have
he
questions
doesn't
too,
have
so
a
I'll-
computer to write it down with. But that,
Emailing
yeah,
works.
All right.
Yes, I might not catch it.
All right.
that would be so helpful.
But you will.
I know your answer, LT.
I mean, it'll have to be how, just to create a plan to.
Right, this is board comments. So,
That was a commentary question.
Chris,
Okay.
I just had, yes, you can speak after the meeting,
Okay.
please. During that survey and talking to Kristen Wiltfang, she kept track of the IP addresses, and also she told me that she was able to get the addresses of the people that did the survey. I don't have the full details of how the survey was, but there were some, because there were statements. That's the only reason I made that comment. I wanted to talk to Chad because he had some good information. I'll contact him tomorrow. And Roy, if you don't mind staying, I would really like to talk to you after the meeting. That's all I have to say. And we're gonna miss you, Susan.
Yeah.
Oh, I second that again.
And you did all
best
the
comment
village
all
meetings
night.
too.
You had to go out with a bang, right?
Best comment I've heard.
All right,
in a
so
long-
that completes our meeting. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Support.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Meeting's adjourned.